Chapter 277. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was sleeping on the other side, was so scared that her face turned pale. Qin Guang reacted quickly and jumped up. While putting on his clothes and pants under the moonlight, he turned his head and said to Sun Xiaoxuan, "Put on your coat and pants." Damn it. Damn it. Today's matter might be more troublesome. After all, he and Sun Xiaoxuan were not husband and wife. They didn't have a marriage certificate. If they encountered unreasonable law enforcement officers, they might not be able to reason with them. Of course, strictly speaking, it didn't seem very reasonable. The knocking on the door became more urgent. The manager outside seemed to be trying to explain, but it was useless. Sun Xiaoxuan also rushed out of the bed in a panic. She didn't care that her pair of white legs were seen by Qin Guang with the moonlight. She quickly sat on the bed and put on her pants and coat. However, she didn't have time to put on her bra. After thinking for a while, she put her bra under the pillow. Qin Guang looked at Sun Xiaoxuan. When she was almost dressed, he said, "Don't be nervous. We are not afraid of the slanderous. I will deal with it. You sit here and don't move. Don't be afraid." Sun Xiaoxuan nodded heavily. At this time she also calmed down a little. She thought to herself, no matter what, I can't be a prostitute. If they are angry, they can go to the hospital next door for a checkup. I'm a real virgin. No matter what, they couldn't sweep the head of a virgin, right? Qin Guang stood in front of the door and took a deep breath. If it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a disaster. If it was a disaster, it couldn't be avoided. Don't worry so much. I will deal with it when it comes. After unlocking the door, Qin Guang didn't even have the time to open it himself. The lock was twisted from the outside, and the door was pushed open. 3 uniformed policemen stood at the door with stern expressions. Beside them was the manager, who had an anxious look on his face. Qin Guang calmly stuck his head out and quickly looked outside. The commotion this time seemed to be quite big. There were policemen everywhere in the corridor. There were more than 10 of them, and they were knocking on the door everywhere. The room directly opposite seemed to have been swept to completion. The door was open, and a man wearing only briefs was squatting on the ground with his hands around his head. A seductive woman wrapped in a bath towel squatted beside him, completely ignoring the fact that the towel was about to fall to the ground and her chest was exposed. "What are you looking at? Hands overhead. Squat down." I really thought it was some big shot, but it turned out to be just a little brat. He didn't learn good things at such a young age, and he only knew how to do lowly things. You're actually playing the adult game of buying sex? The young policeman in front of Qin Guang suddenly said. The manager on the side helplessly turned his head to the other side because his obstruction just now seemed to have backfired. Alas, if I had known that this was such a big deal, I wouldn't have tried to cover up for the young couple in this room. Now, it was obvious that the young couple were not that kind of people, but it had set the mind of the anti-pornography police in advance. Qin Guang turned his face and looked at the policeman in front of him, who seemed to be about the same age as him, and then looked at his badge number. It had letters, so he was an assistant policeman. This kind of person might be even more difficult to deal with than the official police, especially because the manager's help had aroused the other party's jealousy. In addition, the opposite room had been swept to completion, so he was even more certain that he couldn't escape, so his attitude was very bad. If he remembered correctly, last year there was a famous person with the surname Shui, and he was also a well-known entrepreneur. Didn't he get swept to completion? But Qin Guang didn't intend to do as he said. Squatting down with his hands around his head was something that only people who had a guilty conscience would do. He was upright and had a clear conscience, so why would he do this kind of thing? Wouldn't that be tacitly admitting that he was the target of the anti-pornography police? What about Sun Xiaoxuan's dignity as a girl? So Qin Guang decided to block the door and not move. Squatting down with your hands around your head is something that only criminals do. I'm sorry, but I'm not a criminal. You really have a background? You're so arrogant. You think I can't deal with you? The young assistant policeman's face was stiff. Still stubborn? As he spoke, he took a step forward and made a sign that he was going to make a move. Qin Guang didn't panic at all. You have to deal with the real criminals, not me. Besides, I don't have any background. I'm just a family member of an ordinary patient in the opposite Wujing City Hospital. You guys can do whatever you want, it has nothing to do with me. Lies? Keep lying. Get out of the way. We want to go in and check. Qin Guang didn't budge an inch. Get out of the way. On the other side, the hotel manager saw that a fight was about to break out, so he quickly came over to mediate. Mr. Qin, they're just doing a routine check. It's fine, it's fine. If they really fight, it'll be troublesome. Qin Guang nodded slightly. He felt that the manager was right. He turned around and walked inside. He couldn't let Sun Xiaoxuan be humiliated like the real prostitute in front of him. He felt more at ease standing next to Sun Xiaoxuan. The 3 assistant policemen entered in a line. The one in front saw Sun Xiaoxuan and became smug. "You're still denying it? You're still quibbling? This isn't a—" "Shut up. Are you F***king blind? Which eye of yours thinks that I look like a prostitute? Which eye of yours thinks that my girlfriend looks like that? I'm warning you. Watch your mouth." Qin Guang had a lot on his mind recently. This assistant policeman was getting more and more impolite. It was like touching his reverse scale, so he immediately started scolding. The young assistant policeman was reined on, and he couldn't react for a moment. Instead, the other man next to him stood up with an ugly expression. "ID. I don't care what your relationship is. Take out your ID first." On the other side, Sun Xiaoxuan saw that Qin Guang seemed to want to confront these people. She became anxious and grabbed Qin Guang's hand. "Qin Guang, take out your ID." Qin Guang took a few deep breaths to control his emotions. He was too lazy to look at the faces of these young assistant policemen, so he just handed his ID to Sun Xiaoxuan. At the same time, Sun Xiaoxuan took out her ID and handed it over. At the same time, she also took out her student ID. "Officers, my boyfriend and I are students at Gokyo University. My boyfriend's mother is being treated in the hospital across the street. We are really the family of the patient across the street. We're not that kind of people." At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan also followed Qin Guang's words and said that she was his girlfriend. A young man and a young woman lived together in a hotel. It would be a lie to say that there was no relationship. It was better to say that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. "Students at Gokyo University?" The officers checked Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan's ID, and then glanced at Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan. They were indeed a bit like students. When Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan entered the university as freshmen, they changed their household registration and files. They also applied for new ID cards at that time. The address on the ID card was really the campus of Gokyo University in the city. Sun Xiaoxuan's student ID card clearly stated the university and major. Chapter 278. The manager quickly chimed in, "Not bad, Mr. Chen and his girlfriend are really students." "It's not that. A couple had already been caught in the anti-pornography operation today. The manager couldn't allow Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan to be caught again. First, the hotel would definitely be heavily fined, and second, they would offend the black gold card user." Unexpectedly, the man who had been given the cold shoulder by Qin Guang suddenly flipped out. He rushed forward and lifted the blanket to look for evidence while saying, "Just because you say you're a student, that's it? Who knows if your student ID is a fake one from Nine Caves Bridge? Besides, aren't there really students selling their IDs?" Before he finished speaking, he pulled the pillow again, and Sun Xiaoxuan's bra was underneath it. Slap. Qin Guang slapped his grandson's face and pressed one hand on the pillow. He looked at him coldly. "Your mother is the one selling herself. Looking for a beating? Does it feel good? Is there a point? Are you asking for a beating?" He was really angry. He couldn't let this be *tch pull out Sun Xiaoxuan's bra and expose it in public. Sun Xiaoxuan saw Qin Guang's actions and immediately understood what he was thinking. He was extremely touched but also worried. Finally he made a move. At this moment, Qin Guang was like an enraged lion, just like when he beat up Pan Jiang. F***ck. How dare you hit me? Assaulting a police officer? The man who had his ears ringing from Qin Guang's slap took a while to regain his senses. His 2 colleagues were already dumbfounded. Strictly speaking, they had already restrained themselves today. After all, even if they found out that there was nothing wrong with the other party during the anti-pornography operation, the other party would still be polite. Entering a door with a bad attitude was also a way to solve a case. The stronger they appeared, the easier it was for the criminal to break down and give themselves away, leaving the real client with no place to hide. Apart from that, even if it was a real couple, not many people would bring their marriage certificate when they went out. However, the more they asked, the clearer the investigation would be. Unfortunately, the same method might work on other people, but it was like igniting a barrel of dynamite when it came to Qin Guang. Of course, the police officer who was hit shouldn't have said that a student was also selling himself. He even tried to pull the pillow, but Sun Xiaoxuan's bra was underneath it. This completely infuriated Qin Guang. Qin Guang had been restraining his temper ever since these people entered the door. Others thought he was very arrogant, but he still couldn't control himself. In the end, he still couldn't control himself. When the policeman who was beaten reacted to the situation, he immediately flew into a rage. If it was said that he was afraid of Qin Guang's background earlier, Now that he's a student, it also proved that Qin Guang didn't have any backing even if he wasn't a criminal. Thus, he couldn't allow his face to be swept away. He jumped up and stepped on the mattress, intending to kick Qin Guang to the ground. However, Qin Guang stretched out his right hand and grabbed the man's pants in midair. His left hand reached out from the other side and caught the man's calf. He exerted force with both hands and forcefully stopped the man's forward momentum in midair. Then he pressed down with both hands, causing the man's waist to hit the edge of the mattress. He was lucky that this was a mattress. If it had been a hard object, his waist might have been broken. However, it was still not easy. He held his waist and cried out. The other two saw that things were getting out of hand, so they didn't dare to follow up. Instead, they quickly helped their colleague back to the door. Things had escalated to this point, and there was an official police officer leading the team today. It was better to let the captain solve the problem. Temporary workers like them were also troublesome. If they fought, they wouldn't be able to get anything out of it, and most importantly, their chances of winning weren't high. Qin Guang's simple move stunned them. The three of them retreated to the door of the corridor and shouted, "Captain! There's an arrest. Assaulting a police officer." Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly pulled Qin Guang. "Qin Guang, calm down. Your mom is going to have surgery tomorrow. Let's talk things out with them." Qin Guang shook his head fiercely. "No. Damn it, these bastards are too much. We're innocent. Why are they framing us?" He was an old virgin, yet he was treated as a client. He couldn't tolerate it. "Oh yeah, there's something else." Qin Guang leaned over and lifted the pillow. He grabbed Sun Xiaoxuan's bra and quickly stuffed it into Sun Xiaoxuan's hands. A girl's private things shouldn't be seen by others. "I was worried about this just now. Quickly hide it in your sleeves." "Huh?" Sun Xiaoxuan's pale face suddenly turned as red as an apple. He was dumbfounded. "Not only did you see it, but you're also holding it in your hands." His fingers seemed to be on the soft cloth inside my bra. This? Qin Guang didn't realize what was wrong. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't take it, so he became anxious. There was a commotion at the door. It seemed like they called the captain. Without waiting for Sun Xiaoxuan to react, Qin Guang quickly stuffed the white bra into his sleeves and said proudly, "Now no one will see it." "Indeed no one will see it. Because you took it." "Qin Guang, what should we do?" Sun Xiaoxuan was too embarrassed to come back now, so he had to change the topic. Qin Guang snorted. "What do you mean, what should we do? We're not afraid of making a big deal out of this. We're university students, not kids." Two university students were accompanying their family members in surgery outside the hospital, and they got beaten up by the police in the name of anti-pornography. Why should we be afraid of them? But a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Sun Xiaoxuan was still afraid. Qin Guang glared at him coldly again. "What are you afraid of? I don't believe they'll pull out a gun. But if we fight, I can take them down even if all of them work together. Whoever dares to jump in front of me, I'll beat him to death. Let's fight first and talk later." Qin Guang had the intention to kill anyone who stood in his way. He had already made up his mind that if he really made a big deal out of this, he would go to his godsister Wu Tong for help. He didn't believe that the second generation of a government official couldn't handle this. Besides, he and Sun Xiaoxuan didn't break the law. At this time, the voices outside finally became clearer. "What are you doing? Why do you have to check when the other person has brought out his student ID? Are you crazy? Are you looking for trouble?" A sharp woman's voice came from the door. It seemed to be their captain lecturing the three police officers. "But he assaulted the police." The woman's voice continued, "That's a different matter. Another student's relationship doesn't fall under the scope of anti-pornography. Are you trying to use a chicken feather as a token of authority? Are you trying to make my job more difficult? If it's an overlapping law enforcement, then do it properly. Are you trying to embarrass the Wenxing branch on purpose? We didn't offend you, right?" When Qin Guang heard the woman's voice, his anger instantly went to zero. Washing the motor. Overlapping law enforcement? Wenxing branch? Wu Tong. This is Wu Tong's F*King voice. I can recognize it even if I turn into dust. The flood has broken the temple of the Dragon King. Chapter 279. Old Master Guang, who had been so arrogant just a moment ago, was starting to panic. "I used you as my savior and shield, preparing to slap your face and show off to my heart's content, but in the end, you turned out to be the boss of the big villain. How embarrassing. What do you want this old man to do?" He didn't know why, but when his godsister saw the scene of him and Sun Xiaoxuan getting a room together, his heart suddenly became restless. Forget it, forget it. I heard that he's an expert. It's not a bad idea for me to go and meet him. I haven't had the time to properly practice recently. Wu Tong, who was outside, was also in high spirits. She rubbed her palms together and prepared to go all out. She had to teach her own people a lesson, but she also had to win back her face. Then she turned a corner and walked in aggressively. Immediately after, she and Qin Guang stared at each other, both dumbfounded. Wu Tong couldn't wrap her head around it. Why did she run into this guy in a place like this? She turned her head to look at the situation in the room and saw Sun Xiaoxuan wrapped tightly in her coat, standing timidly in the corner of the room. Qin Guang was standing in front of her like an eagle protecting a chick. There seemed to be no need to explain what was going on. Combined with what the assistant police had said, Wu Tong could roughly guess that Qin Guang and his classmate had gotten a room together and were caught red-handed by the city's sudden raid today. Didn't he injure Pan Jiang because of this girl called Sun Xiaoxuan? With the nature of these assistant police officers, especially today's group operation, they would definitely be even more arrogant. Wu Tong naturally understood this. She also knew that Qin Guang had a bad temper and couldn't tolerate the slightest grievance. Back then he had seriously injured his classmate because of a disagreement. So, a commotion was inevitable. Wu Tong was able to analyze everything clearly. But an inexplicable anger surged from the bottom of her heart. She felt that there was no reason for it, but she just couldn't stop it. Qin Guang had saved this girl like a hero, so it was natural for the girl to return the favor by marrying him. But why was it that when she saw this scene she was so angry that she wanted to rush up and beat him up? When Qin Guang first saw Wu Tong, he felt a little awkward, but he soon calmed down. From what she had said before she came in, it seemed that today was really a big operation that involved the whole city. She, a police officer from the Wenxing branch, had been transferred here to carry out the mission. In any case, since Wu Tong was the leader of the team, today's matter should be considered settled. Although it was a little troublesome, it was good to resolve the matter satisfactorily. Just as Qin Guang was thinking about this, he suddenly saw a strange emotion in Wu Tong's eyes. What is this? Very angry? Are you F***king kidding me? Aren't you my good sister? Why do you have such an expression? Qin Guang didn't understand and Wu Tong didn't understand either, but she couldn't restrain the anger in her heart. I clearly recognized him as my younger brother. Even if I was obsessed with him that day, I would always think about him in my heart from time to time. But I have clearly transformed this emotion into the feeling between siblings. What the hell am I angry about? Wu Tong didn't dare to speak. She was afraid that what she said would become a question between lovers. Qin Guang was also waiting for Wu Tong to express her opinion. Because of the inexplicable silence of these two people, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became strangely heavy. What happened to Captain Wu? I heard that there was a situation here? Just then Wang Long appeared from outside the room again, shouting at the top of his lungs. Poor Wang Long. Originally he was the old police officer who guided Wu Tong. It had only been a few months, but Wu Tong's position had flown over his head and became the captain of the team. The duo still hadn't changed, but Wang Long had bitterly changed from a senior to a younger brother. He even changed his address to Captain Wu. This was the biggest difference between a second generation and a poor civil servant. Of course, no one could deny that Wu Tong really dared to fight, and her professional ability was strong. The branch bureau promoted her to captain because she easily won the freestyle championship in the police system division competition last month, so it was justifiable. Then Wang Long saw Wu Tong and Qin Guang looking at each other in the room, and then he saw Sun Xiaoxuan standing behind Qin Guang like a wrong daughter-in-law. Wang Long sucked in a cold breath and broke out in a cold sweat. He shrunk his neck and wanted to slip back. Something big happened. The anti-pornography campaign caught the adulterer in bed. *CK. The female police Tyrannosaurus in the anti-pornography campaign caught the adulterer. Once the situation got out of control and this tragic fact was exposed, not only would there be a big incident now, but tomorrow's news would also sweep the 5 capital police system. Wang Long was so flustered that he almost couldn't stand still. He regretted coming over and asking more questions and getting involved in this matter. Yes, as early as when Wu Tong loved Qin Guang to the point of going through fire and water in the Wenxing branch, regardless of the views of the secular world, the people in the Wenxing branch were basically sure that Qin Guang, a student from Gokyo University, and their beautiful police comrade were already set in stone. Later on, Wu Tong helped Qin Guang run errands a few times to resolve the Pan family's problems. She even pulled her father from the police station to Wujing University to support her. At that time, everyone was even more certain in their hearts. When they discussed the relationship between Qin Guang and Wu Tong in private, they had already called him brother-in-law and then brother-in-law. Wang Long was no exception. Wu Tong had been furious many times because of this, but the more furious she was, the more her flushed expression when she was angry made it seem like she was hiding something. Later she was too lazy to deny it. Perhaps she secretly thought that it was good for them to misunderstand her. Anyway, she wouldn't lose a piece of flesh. After saying so much, it was not difficult to understand the panic in Wang Long's heart. Finally, the assistant policeman who had been knocked down by Qin Guang in 2 moves broke the silence. He rubbed his waist with one hand and moved in front of Qin Guang. He pointed at Qin Guang's nose and roared fiercely, "Boy, you bought sex and violently arrested me. Assaulting a police officer. Obstructing official business. Come with us." As he spoke, he reached for Qin Guang's wrist and wanted to grab him first. Although he knew that this boy was difficult to handle, the assistant policeman also knew that the person behind him was the recently popular freestyle champion of the police world. He was not someone to be trifled with, so he regained his courage. Bought sex? Qin Guang's pupils shrank, especially when he felt Sun Xiaoxuan's hand pinching the back of his clothes. He was so angry that he subconsciously pulled it, which made Qin Guang's anger that he had just suppressed ignite again. He waved his hand violently and slapped Sun Xiaoxuan's face again. Sun Xiaoxuan covered his face and stepped back. This time, Qin Guang's slap was more solid, and his face was swollen. You hit me? You're a man, can you not talk like a sissy? If you don't know how to talk, then talk less. Otherwise your mouth will be used to get slapped. Qin Guang. Enough. Wu Tong finally spoke. Chapter 280. Seeing that Wu Tong didn't seem to notice him and was planning to leave quietly, Wang Long, who had already walked back to the door, shivered. This is bad. The female T-Rex is going to flip out. It wasn't easy for her to endure until now. It's so hard for me. God, please teach me, what should I do now? I, Wang Long, have handled so many cases and faced so many vicious criminals. I've never been afraid. But I've never encountered this kind of situation. One wrong step and I'll be smashed to pieces. The 3 assistant police officers who led the way were even more embarrassed than Wang Long. From the moment Wu Tong entered until now, they hadn't said Qin Guang's name at all. The man and woman's ID cards were still in their pockets. But why did Captain Wu of the Wenxing branch know the boy's name so easily? From her tone, she seemed to be very familiar with the boy. Captain Wu's background was already explained to them by the branch chief before today's operation. His background was very powerful. Sis, you saw it? They went too far. I'll accept whatever they said, but I can't stand it when they said that about Sun Xiaoxuan. Qin Guang spread his hands and said. Wang Long and the 3 assistant police officers almost fainted, but they all had different thoughts. Wang Long thought, it's over. This brother-in-law is too bold. He was caught red-handed, but he still put on an appearance of protecting the mistress and not allowing her to suffer any grievances. This is bad. Also, do they address each other like this? Sis. That's right, Wu Tong is definitely older than Qin Guang. It's quite suitable. F***CK, what time is this? What am I still thinking about? The other 3 assistant police officers were even more annoyed. What did we just hear? Sis. F***CK. Who exactly did we accidentally provoke? If we want to die, no one can stop us. Captain Wu. Captain Wu. Calm down, calm down. Wang Long finally plucked up his courage and strode forward. His act of sacrificing his life for righteousness had worked, drawing everyone's attention to him. Swallowing his saliva, Wang Long suddenly stood between Qin Guang and Wu Tong. Captain Wu, don't be impulsive. The other side has already finished their investigation. It's time to take a statement. Why don't you go and take a look? There seem to be 2 more people upstairs. There's a big operation in the city today. Official business is more important. Wang Long was reminding Wu Tong. Qin Guang didn't quite understand why Brother Wang Long was so nervous. He was a little surprised. Brother Wang Long, you're here too. That's right. It's good that all of you are here. Please help me explain. Why can't you sweep my head in order to crack down on prostitution? Can't we university students fall in love freely? Wang Long wanted to slap himself in the face, but in his heart he gave Qin Guang a big thumbs up. He was the strongest adulterer in history. I submit. Then Qin Guang didn't know that danger was coming. He smiled and put his hand on Wang Long's shoulder. He said to Wu Tong, Sister, I know I was wrong. It was wrong of me to hit your colleague in front of you. Police officers are good public servants who serve the people. I apologize to this brother. Please watch your words in the future. Okay. Then I won't disturb your official business anymore? Wang Long was completely dumbfounded. This bastard actually asked him to leave. He followed my words and asked me to leave. Congratulations, brother-in-law Qin Guang. You're the champion of this year's death-seeking competition. On the other side, Wu Tong's breathing became more and more rapid. She was indeed angry, but she also knew that she was performing official business. It wasn't her private time. She couldn't do anything that would cause misunderstandings at this time. But no matter how much she comforted herself, Wu Tong couldn't control her anger when she saw Sun Xiaoxuan's aggrieved expression behind Qin Guang's back. At this moment, Qin Guang's nonchalant attitude was clearly telling her that she had seen him getting a room with another girl. It's fine, right? You won't mind, right? In any case, it has nothing to do with you, right? It doesn't matter. But I'm angry. I'm a woman. I don't need a reason to be angry. At this time, Sun Xiaoxuan finally plucked up the courage to poke her head out from behind Qin Guang. She wanted to help, but she was too nervous. She subconsciously hugged Qin Guang's arm. Officer Wu, this is really a misunderstanding. Qin Guang and I are just an ordinary boyfriend and girlfriend. We're not the targets of your anti-pornography campaign. Wang Long's back was facing Qin Guang. He stared at Wu Tong's expression from beginning to end to prevent her from going berserk. When Sun Xiaoxuan said this, the last string in Wang Long's heart was about to break. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. He saw with his own eyes that Wu Tong's face suddenly flushed. It wasn't shyness, but pure adrenaline that was about to explode and hot blood rushing to the brain. The powder keg was about to explode. Qin Guang also paid attention to the changes in Wu Tong's expression. He was puzzled at first, but then his mind flashed. He seemed to have understood something and his heart skipped a beat. Even if he didn't understand women, he could still vaguely smell the gunpowder coming from Wu Tong's body. Something's wrong. It seems, probably, the after-effects of Lioli's super deep hypnosis are still stubborn? My cheap sister still has feelings for me? Everything that had happened since he met Wu Tong flashed through his mind at lightning speed. Wu Tong had violated the rules to help him settle the Pan family's troubles. She had made a phone call to get her father to back him up. After that, the two of them had sat by the Minuan Lake at school and played around. She said she would help him investigate Fatty Wang's background. Before she left, she stepped on his foot and then ran away like a happy little sparrow. Her every frown and smile at that time suddenly flashed through Qin Guang's mind in slow motion. She's really interested in me? No wonder. Otherwise, with her identity, why would she treat me so well? Why did she take the initiative to say that she wanted to recognize me as her younger brother? Just because I'm handsome? My personality is likable? They've only met a few times. Although the old man is confident that he's a good person, his personality and charisma can't be this strong. Listen to me. We're staying here for a reason. My mother, Qin Guang came forward and finally wanted to explain something. Take him away, Wang Long. Take Qin Guang back to assist in the investigation. Wu Tong waved her hand fiercely and shouted. Then she turned her face away without looking at Qin Guang and added, I know that Qin Guang is not a target of the anti-pornography campaign, but we can't let this go. I have to answer to my colleagues. Wang Long. Take him away. Huh. Qin Guang and Wang Long were stunned. Qin Guang frowned fiercely. His mother was going to have surgery tomorrow morning. How could he be taken away at this time? On the other side, Wang Long reacted quickly. He was secretly glad that Wu Tong had finally held back her temper. He only thought that if he took Qin Guang away now, it would be better to solve the matter between the couple in private. Anyway, he would pay attention to them when the time came. As long as no one died, it would be fine as long as they weren't seen as a joke by outsiders from other branches. Wang Long pulled Qin Guang's shoulder and whispered in his ear, Qin Guang, don't talk back to Captain Wu. She's angry now. If you have something to say it in private. It's not good to make a scene in public. Chapter 281. Qin Guang struggled a little, but he couldn't break free. Wang Long was really using all his strength. On the other side, Wu Tong was still looking at him with a livid face. Don't go overboard. Qin Guang was a little anxious and wanted to say something. Before he could finish his sentence, Wang Longmeng covered his mouth and pushed him out. Wang Longmeng whispered into his ear, My brother. I beg you. I don't know what's going on with you two, but you're fighting at the head of the bed and reconciling at the end. Please stop it. Let's go back first. I'll go with you to the branch here and we can discuss everything slowly. *CK. Husband and wife? Fighting at the head of the bed and reconciling at the end? When did I become this kind of relationship with Wu Tong? Wang Long's information was enough to stun Qin Guang. Could it be that she had secretly announced that I'm her man? No wonder she's so angry. Qin Guang felt that he had grasped the key to the problem and he felt even more pain in the ass. I'm so King innocent. It's none of my business. If it were another situation he might still not give face to Wu Tong, but Wang Long was right. She was now carrying out her duties and he didn't know what she was thinking. If they were to get into a fight in public he wouldn't know how things would turn out. Sai, forget it, I'll accompany her first. Later, I'll explain to her about my mother's matter, and then I'll explain to her that I slept in the same room with Sun Xiaoxuan today for no reason. With her personality she probably won't be so unreasonable, right? Qin Guang still maintained his utmost patience and restraint with Wu Tong. On the other side, Wu Tong saw that Qin Guang had finally been escorted away by Wang Long. The anger in her mind gradually subsided. Seeing Sun Xiaoxuan's flustered and bewildered appearance, she gradually felt ashamed. She wanted to explain something to Sun Xiaoxuan, but she didn't know where to start. Even she felt that it was strange. Timo? No. The assistant police officer on the side said something that was extremely inappropriate. It's all because of these 3 idiots that I ran into this mess. It's fine if I don't know anything. Why should I interfere with Qin Guang's private life? Wu Tong immediately vented her anger on these 3 people. She resisted the urge to beat them up and just punched the wall with her fist. A loud bang resounded. Have you checked all the rooms? Get lost. When the 3 of them ran away, scared witless. Wu Tong took a deep breath, squeezed out an awkward smile and comforted Sun Xiaoxuan. Qin Guang assaulting a police officer is an established fact. Although I know him I can't be biased. But don't worry, I'll just call him back to criticize and educate him. Have a good rest first. After some thought, Wu Tong added, but he won't be coming back tonight. Sun Xiaoxuan wasn't a silly fool like Qin Guang, and women understood women the best. A long time ago when she saw Wu Tong clinging to Qin Guang like an octopus, she knew that Wu Tong was a potential competitor. Today, after witnessing Wu Tong losing control step by step, Sun Xiaoxuan was even more certain of her conjecture. She was really afraid that Qin Guang would be locked up for an entire night, and it would be terrible if Andy Feng didn't come back tomorrow. If she fanned the flames and made Officer Wu lose control even more, she would go back to Qin Guang and continue to cause trouble. With Qin Guang's current state of mind and personality, he would definitely hate her completely. Officer Wu, Qin Guang and I don't have that kind of relationship. Today's situation is really special. Although she knew that it was a good opportunity to kick her competitor out, Sun Xiaoxuan's kindness prevented her from doing such a thing. She just wanted to explain things clearly, and she regretted holding Qin Guang's arm just now. She knew that her action just now caused Wu Tong to misunderstand. Wu Tong waved her hand tiredly, and before Sun Xiaoxuan could finish speaking she turned around and walked out. Sun Xiaoxuan, don't let your imagination run wild. I still have things to do outside so I'll be going now. Before she finished her sentence, the door had already slammed shut. Sun Xiaoxuan hurriedly chased after her and opened the door. Although it was noisy outside, Wu Tong was nowhere to be seen. It had only been a few seconds and she was gone. Sun Xiaoxuan stomped her feet anxiously. She wanted to chase after her but she didn't know where she was. Her chest was empty, and her girl's shyness prevented her from stepping out of the door. In the end she could only return to her room and lock the door again. Sun Xiaoxuan sat on the bed and sighed. How could this be? Did I cause trouble for him? Qin Guang must be annoyed to death right now. Sun Xiaoxuan fell back on the bed and stared at the ceiling in a daze, feeling extremely helpless. She crawled under the covers and gradually felt sleepy. It was almost 2 in the morning and she really couldn't hold on any longer. She fell asleep without taking off her pants. Before she fell asleep, a vague thought popped up in her mind. My bra? He stuffed it into his sleeve and took it away. After Wu Tong walked out of the room, she didn't immediately care about the cleaning work in the other rooms. Instead, she flashed to the fire staircase next door and slid down the corner of the wall while hugging her legs. She also looked at the cement stairs with a blank expression. After a long time she murmured, Is my brain stuffed with mud? Wu Tong, what the hell are you thinking? When the cleaning finally came to an end, Wu Tong, as the captain, led the team back to the border area branch office. Wang Long had already dragged Qin Guang to the office for almost 2 hours, finished 3 packs of drunkard's peanuts, drank 6 cans of beer and more than 100 yuan of barbecue, and watched an international A-level friendly match together. Qin Guang didn't look like he was here to assist in the investigation. He seemed to be Wang Long's friend who was invited to watch the game. Since he was already here, Qin Guang knew that he couldn't leave without clearing things up with Wu Tong. Anyway, he couldn't sleep at night, and this place was not far from the hospital and the hotel. He simply chatted with Wang Long and watched the game peacefully. He planned to not sleep tonight, as long as he could get back in time before his mother went into the operating room tomorrow morning. Of course, when he was lying in the hotel, Sun Xiaoxuan, who was close at hand, did give him a lot of pressure. Now that he could legally slip away and there was an acquaintance to watch the game, drink, eat peanuts and eat barbecue with, it felt good. Thinking about it carefully, even if he was lying in the hotel bed, his mind would not be able to turn over the mountain of tomorrow's surgery. It was good to be able to chat with others, watch the game, and distract his attention. He didn't scare himself and always think about nonsense. The two men made a profound comment on the England and Italy teams, and Qin Guang told Wang Long about his appearance in the hotel. After listening to it, Wang Long was also speechless about Qin Guang's encounter, and his heart relaxed a little. This brother-in-law did not seem to be a playboy. There was indeed a reason for today's incident, and there was still a need to reconcile when Wu Tong came over. In addition, Wang Long naturally expressed his concern for Qin Guang's mother as usual. Qin Guang only sighed and believed Wang Long's words that good people were blessed by heaven. Finally, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, Wu Tong came back. The game had just ended, and the two sides had tied. She looked a little tired. It was the first time that she represented the Wenxing branch in such a big operation in the city. In the middle of it, Qin Guang's matter was interspersed, and her right-hand man Wang Long was sent away to take Qin Guang to the branch office. She was very busy. Wang Long hurriedly stood up and planned to help Qin Guang explain. He understood Qin Guang's feelings. He was worried that if Wu Tong acted too aggressively, it would make things worse. Chapter 282. Wu Tong looked at Wang Long's expression and guessed what he wanted to say. She then turned to look at Qin Guang, who was sitting on the sofa with an expressionless face. The anger that had gradually subsided rose from the bottom of her heart again. Captain Wu. Wang Long was about to speak. Wu Tong waved her hand fiercely. Don't speak for him. I have said before that he should change his bad temper. Today he actually attacked a police officer in front of us. If I don't correct him, my name is not Wu Tong. She didn't give Wang Long a chance to say another word. She passed by him like the wind and stood in front of Qin Guang. Looking at the trash can full of drunkards' peanut packaging, barbecue sticks, and 6 cans of beer, Wu Tong's face completely darkened. I worked so hard to clean up outside, but I asked you to come here to be educated, but you became eating barbecue and watching football? Taking a few deep breaths, she calmed her mood. Qin Guang, come here. I have something to say to you. Wu Tong suppressed the anger in her heart. She also knew that this place was someone else's branch, and she couldn't let others see her as a joke. She walked to the interrogation room. Wang Long came over eagerly. I want to help you say something. Qin Guang was also expressionless at this time. He just waved his hand and said, Thank you, brother Wang Long. It's okay, I will go and talk to her myself. If it were another time, Qin Guang would indeed be very patient to explain to Wu Tong, and even use the long-lost pestering skill to make her obedient. After all, he owed her a lot of favors. Since he owed her a favor, he would feel weak in his heart. Hence, Qin Guang's patience with Wu Tong was also much better than others. Moreover, Qin Guang also knew that although she was a bit irritable, she was a good person. But today was different. This day was too special. Tomorrow morning was the most important event in Qin Guang's life so far. Even if the sky was falling, he had to give in to his mother's surgery. Qin Guang had already wasted 2 hours here, and he hadn't had a good rest until now. Qin Guang was already very impatient. When he thought of tomorrow's surgery, the uncertainty made him even more anxious and uneasy. On top of that, Qin Guang had drunk 3 tins of beer, which boosted his courage. Even though he understood Wu Tong's misunderstanding, he still felt indignant for himself. Even if you really like me, I don't like you. We don't have that kind of relationship at all. What right do you have to throw a tantrum at me? I don't care if you talk about our relationship in your own place, but why are you giving me that attitude again and again? What are you doing? Do you really think of yourself as my woman? Have I given my consent and approval? When have I ever taken advantage of you? So what if I really slept with Sun Xiaoxuan? Do I need to ask for your permission? What's more, Sun Xiaoxuan and I aren't even close. Are you done yet? Just like that, Qin Guang walked into the interrogation room with an imposing manner. Wu Tong, who was next to him, slammed the door shut. She then looked at Qin Guang, who was standing by the door, and sneered. Qin Guang also stared at her. Are you done? Wu Tong said angrily, What do you mean I'm done? You are just a little brat, right? Not only did you bring a little girl to a hotel, but you also hit the police? Do you really think that with me covering for you, you can do whatever you want in Wujing City? What's the difference between you and Pan Jiang, that kind of rich second generation? What did you say to me before? What are you doing now? Qin Guang spat at the side. Didn't you hear how unpleasant that person's words were? Does he mean that I deserve to be wronged? Sun Xiaoxuan was called a prostitute, and I have to swallow my anger? Even if I don't know you, I will still beat him up. Do you believe me? No matter what the reason is. It's wrong to hit people. Wu Tong said forcefully. What a joke. If I can tolerate this, am I still a man? As the two talked, the atmosphere became heated. Wang Long, who was eavesdropping outside, was anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Wu Tong snorted. Yes, I know that you and that little girl named Sun Xiaoxuan are a couple. She is very important to you and you can't let her be wronged, right? Qin Guang was so angry that he laughed. He waved his hand and said, think what you want. There is nothing between me and her. Clatter. As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Xiaoxuan's white bra fell out of his sleeve and fell on the ground between the two of them. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. How could I forget that this thing was in my sleeve? You call this nothing? Wu Tong looked down at the white bra. Her brain was stiff at first, but she quickly reacted. She was so angry that her face turned red. Forget it. Qin Guang just quietly bent down and tucked the bra back into his sleeve. He didn't even have the mood to explain. What the F***ck? Just as he was about to prove his innocence aggressively, this thing was actually thrown at him? Even if I am the best talker in history, Zhang Heng, I can't do anything. What else can I say? Say my ass. Forget it. I can't be bothered to argue with you. I'm leaving. Qin Guang was about to open the door. He didn't want to explain, couldn't explain, and didn't need to. He was too lazy to care about what Wu Tong thought. He planned to leave first. Stop. Wu Tong raised her hand and pressed the door lock. You can't leave. Qin Guang turned around and looked at Wu Tong. What? You're interfering with official business. You've violated public security regulations. I have the right to detain you. Wu Tong felt extremely wronged. Up until now, Qin Guang hadn't explained anything to her. However, she was in no position to take the initiative to uncover the matter and ask what she wanted to say. She never thought that from the beginning to the end, whether it was Qin Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan, or even Wang Long, they all wanted to explain to her. It was she who didn't give them the chance to speak, which led to the current situation. Qin Guang took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed his anger. When he looked at Wu Tong again, there was no longer any familiarity in his eyes. There was only a strong sense of distance and unfamiliarity. He finally understood. Perhaps the aftereffects of his second-generation rich sister's severe hypnosis had remained until now. As a result, she really did have feelings for him. That was why she became like this today. Dealing with her like this is too strenuous. I'm tired. He used to think that dealing with her was easy and pleasant, but now it seemed that he had thought too simply of her. After all, she was the daughter of an aristocratic family. No matter how well she hid her big missy temperament, it would sooner or later erupt and see the light of day. If she really had such a temperament and didn't care whether it was right or wrong, and insisted on making life difficult for him like a crazy woman, then this friendship would be broken. As for the favor he owed her, he would just give her a few 100,000 yuan and treat it as paying it off. With such thoughts in his mind, Qin Guang was attacked by the alcohol and anger at the same time. His thoughts were a little out of control. Qin Guang also misunderstood Wu Tong. He thought that Wu Tong didn't want to hear an explanation at all. In fact, Wu Tong's brain had short-circuited before. Now, she was extremely eager for him to say something that could make her feel at ease. Even if it was to lie to her that there was nothing between him and Sun Xiaoxuan. Even if she had clearly seen the bra, as long as Qin Guang was willing to make it up, no matter how absurd the lie sounded, she would be willing to believe it. However, it was already too late. Enough, it's really enough. Once his mind made a decision, when Qin Guang spoke again, his voice was no longer angry but cold. Wu Tong's whole body quivered. She vaguely realized Qin Guang's plan, and her expression became flustered. Chapter 283. Wu Tong swallowed her saliva and said nervously, Qin Guang? I'm a little angry. Qin Guang shook his head slowly. I can probably guess what you're angry about. I originally wanted to explain it to you. But is there really a need to explain it now? Say it. I'll believe whatever you say. At this time, Wu Tong was no longer the captain of the Wenxing branch. She was just a frightened woman. Well, I'll tell you. My mom is lying in Wujing City Hospital now. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, She will go into the operating room for a kidney transplant. Do you understand? I have to go to the hospital at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I was called to this place by you. I can't go back to the hotel until now. How do you think I should feel right now? I don't know what your position is, but you seem to care about my relationship with Sun Xiaoxuan. Then I'll tell you. She is my squad leader and she came here to help. Because there were no extra rooms in the hotel, she could only squeeze into the same room as me. It was a double bed and it was an unfortunate coincidence. Do you believe it? This bra was originally hidden under the pillow. Your assistant policeman wanted to lift the pillow, so I beat him up. Do you believe it? Then I didn't want the girl's private clothes to be seen by others, so I stuffed it into my sleeve. Do you believe it? Forget it, it's up to you if you don't believe it. That's it. I'm done talking. After Qin Guang finished, he pushed the dumbfounded Wu Tong away, opened the door of the interrogation room and walked out quickly. Didn't you say last time that your mother just had a small problem? How could that be? Wu Tong suddenly understood the reason why Qin Guang was so angry and out of control. Qin Guang turned around, because I wasn't familiar with you at the time. There was no need to tell you in detail about this family's private affairs. I don't need someone I'm not familiar with to help me share my pain. By the way, I do owe you a favor. I'm very sorry about this. I'll find a way to return the favor. Goodbye. With that, Qin Guang strode away, not giving Wu Tong any chance to speak. Wu Tong's face turned pale as she watched his figure disappear out of the branch office in an instant. When Wang Long saw this, he knew that things were developing in the worst direction, so he hurried over. Wu Tong took a deep breath and almost roared in front of everyone, "You must know Wang Long, right? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Wang Long had a bitter look on his face. "I wanted to tell you a long time ago, but I didn't have the chance to." Wu Tong's body almost went limp. She leaned against the wall and rubbed her head in pain, but she didn't have the courage to chase after Qin Guang. Even if she did, she didn't know what to say to Qin Guang. Her previous anger came without reason, and now her disappointment was also without reason. She was very confused and upset, but she didn't want to admit that she really liked Qin Guang. Wu Tong locked herself in the break room of the branch office. She tried to call her best friend, Tang Ying, who was in Wujing City Hospital, but Tang Ying's phone was turned off. Wu Tong threw her phone on the coffee table, lay down on her back and curled up on the sofa. She muttered to herself, "How did it become like this? I'm really a terrible person. I'll find a suitable opportunity to apologize to him. He should be able to forgive me, right? He's also very angry. If it were me, I'm afraid I'd be even angrier than him." So, he was so angry that he even said that he didn't know me well. This was really depressing to the point of being powerless. When Qin Guang returned to the hotel, it was already 5 o'clock in the morning. He tiptoed back to his room and carefully placed the bra next to the sleeping Sun Xiaoxuan's pillow. He gently lay down next to him with his clothes on. The alcohol mixed with drowsiness and he could finally sleep for an hour. Before falling asleep, Qin Guang still remembered Wu Tong's pale face with regret before he left, and he faintly felt a little uncomfortable. He thought to himself that she might really be very sad, but he could only sigh in his heart. Sometimes life is quite helpless. Although he knew that she might not have any evil intentions, he couldn't help but gradually become disgusted with her. It's good to sour my relationship with her as soon as possible. I should keep my distance from people like her in the first place, and at the same time, I should cut off my relationship with her as my godsister. That way, I won't get into more trouble because of Lioli's overly effective divine hypnosis. This godsister is actually not that cheap. Her background is a little too big. Indeed, someone like me shouldn't be trying to get close to her. Maybe if I put down my pride and coax her a little, she would be able to calm down? Actually, she's quite easy to fool, but what's the point of doing this? I really don't have the mood to think about these things right now. Or even if I manage to coax her today, it will become like this sooner or later, right? The next day, Sun Xiaoxuan's alarm rang on time at 6 o'clock in the morning. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Qin Guang lying next to her, and the boulder in her heart was instantly lifted. Sun Xiaoxuan's face was flushed red as she took her legs off Qin Guang's bed while trembling with fear. Her face was extremely red. She didn't know how she slept last night. As she slept, she moved to face Qin Guang's side. Then, just like how she usually hugged a doll in the dorm, she hugged Qin Guang, who was wrapped in a cup, tightly as if he was a doll. She even put her legs on his body. Fortunately, this idiot was sleeping like a log and didn't notice. Sun Xiaoxuan quietly turned off the alarm and washed up even more carefully, not making the slightest sound. Seeing that Qin Guang was still sleeping like a log, Sun Xiaoxuan thought for a moment and didn't rush to wake him up. Instead, she pulled out the room card and went downstairs. After eating breakfast in the dining room, she brought 2 buns, a box of porridge and an egg upstairs. After placing the breakfast on the bedside table, Sun Xiaoxuan sat on the edge of the bed and quietly looked at the sleeping Chen Guang. When he thought about what happened last night, he felt a faint sense of grievance, but it was more of a sweet feeling. He's always like this, protecting me like an angry lion. I don't know if he explained it to Officer Wu. Sun Xiaoxuan's mood was a bit complicated. He hoped that Chen Guang and Wu Tong would really break up because of this, but he also felt that this misunderstanding was caused by him. He felt ashamed, and he also felt that Chen Guang had been mentally and physically exhausted for the past 2 days. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't help much when he came over, and instead caused trouble for him. How about I go back and explain it to the armed police officer? Sun Xiaoxuan buried the faint unwillingness in his heart and made up his mind. The 2 of them were scheduled to go to the hospital at 6:30 a.m. Sun Xiaoxuan waited for another 5 minutes until 6:20 a.m., but Chen Guang still hadn't woken up. He had to wake him up. Sun Xiaoxuan pushed Chen Guang's body and said softly, "Wake up. Chen Guang, wake up." It was no use. He only closed his eyes at 5 a.m. It had only been an hour, so how could Chen Guang wake up so easily? Sun Xiaoxuan pushed him harder, but he still didn't move. He was really sleeping like a dead pig. Why is he sleeping so soundly? What should I do? Sun Xiaoxuan moved her face in front of Chen Guang and looked at the guy with the dark circles under his eyes. She was worried. She looked straight at Chen Guang, and her mind was suddenly emptied. He looks so good when he's sleeping. He looks good no matter how I look at him. I really want to look at his face like this for the rest of my life. For some reason, Sun Xiaoxuan opened her eyes wide and moved forward bit by bit. Her lips touched his lips like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, and then she shrank back like a startled rabbit. Her face was extremely red, and the burning sensation spread from her neck to her ears, then to her face. Her heart was pounding, and she looked like a child who had secretly eaten a snack. He really slept like a log. Sun Xiaoxuan moved forward again and whispered in his ear, "Chen Guang, I like you." Then Chen Guang slowly opened his eyes. "What are you doing?" "My ears are itchy." Get up, get up. It's 6:30 a.m. Sun Xiaoxuan ran outside. "I'll wait for you downstairs. Eat your breakfast and go downstairs." It's weird. Chen Guang rubbed his eyes in a daze and turned his head to look at the hospital building outside the window. His mind gradually flew to his mother's side. "I've been waiting for this day. If something really happened to my mother, I'll really tear the heavens apart." Chapter 284. Wu Tong lay in the waiting room of the branch office until 6 o'clock the next morning. She was woken up by her ringtone. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Tang Ying had finally replied. "What's up, D***MN woman? I'm busy. I'm going into the operating room soon. I turned off my phone last night. I have a major operation today, so I need to rest." Wu Tong dialed Tang Ying's number. Tang Ying seemed to be having breakfast. Before Wu Tong could speak, Tang Ying said, "Let's make a long story short. I have a major operation today and it's a life-threatening one. I'll call you when I'm done." Tang Ying's mouth was stuffed with porridge buns and her words were muffled. She looked very anxious. Hearing that Tang Ying was really busy, Wu Tong knew that her idea of confiding in her best friend was completely dashed. She sighed. "Since you're busy, forget it." "What's wrong? Why are you sighing? This is not like the Wu Tong I know." Tang Ying and Wu Tong had known each other for more than 10 years. They were not biological sisters, but they were closer than that. Hearing Wu Tong's tone, Tang Ying knew that she had something on her mind. Wu Tong did not want to disturb Tang Ying's surgery by talking about her troubles, so she changed the topic. "By the way, what kind of surgery are you going to do? Why do you look so serious? Is it a complicated condition?" On the other side, Tang Ying gulped down a big mouthful of porridge. "It's not complicated. I've done it a few times before, so I'm familiar with it. It's a kidney transplant. But this is my first time being the chief surgeon since returning to China, so I can't take it lightly." Wu Tong's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly remembered that Chen Guang had said last night that his mother would be having a kidney transplant in Wujing City Hospital today. Could it be so coincidental? But on second thought, she realized that it was probably true. A kidney transplant was not a minor operation like an appendectomy. It might not even happen once a month. Is your patient called Feng Rong?" Last time when Chen Guang beat up Pan Jiang, Wu Tong had looked up his family's ID file, and she had already memorized the names of Qin Guang's parents. Tang Ying was shocked. How did you know? Wu Tong laughed. Who do you think I am? Is there anything in Wujing City that I don't know? Tang Ying rolled her eyes. She had finished her meal, so she put down the bowl and said, I don't want to waste time with you. I'm off. Talk later. Tang Ying hung up the phone, got up, put on a white coat and walked out of the dorm. Since the day before yesterday, Feng Rong had been under 24-hour surveillance. Now she was finally going to the battlefield. Wu Tong hung up the phone and she felt her head was going to explode. It was only 6 o'clock in the morning, and there were only 2 colleagues on duty in the branch office. As for Wang Long, he had returned home last night when he realized that he couldn't help much. Wu Tong drove her Wrangler out of the police station's parking lot and looked at the Wujing City Hospital not far away. She hesitated for a while before she drove back to Wenxing Town. At this moment, Qin Guang was in a fit of rage and had many things to do. So Qin Guang definitely wouldn't be in the mood to listen to his explanation. When the time was right, he would make an excuse to visit Tang Ying in the hospital and create an opportunity for them to meet. At that time, even if Qin Guang is still mad at me, Tang Ying is the chief surgeon who cured his mother. I should at least give her some face, right? Wu Tong knew Tang Ying's medical skills, and she didn't think anything would go wrong with Tang Ying as the chief surgeon. However, when she thought about the fact that she needed Tang Ying to mediate between them, she regretted it. This is all my fault. My brain must have short-circuited. Qin Guang didn't care about what Wu Tong was thinking. He quickly got up, washed up, ate breakfast and went downstairs with his bag. Sun Xiaoxuan stayed downstairs for a long time. He repeatedly scrutinized Qin Guang's movements, and after confirming that Qin Guang didn't notice his little tricks, he gradually calmed down. The two went straight to the hospital without delay. Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to help a lot, but after they arrived at the hospital, she could only watch from the side and couldn't help. Qin Guang and Qin Guili had a lot to sign, so Feng Rong didn't allow outsiders to approach. But Sun Xiaoxuan didn't expect to be of any help. She was satisfied just to accompany Qin Guang and wait for her outside. Time flew and it was 9 o'clock. Qin Guang and Qin Guili watched Feng Rong being pushed into the operating room. The door of the operating room was slowly closed. The father and son looked at each other and saw the deep worry in each other's eyes. Qin Guang, Uncle Qin, it will be fine. Dr. Tang is very famous. I found a lot of information about her on the internet. She is really famous. Sun Xiaoxuan walked over with his phone. Qin Guang and Qin Guili knew that it was useless to worry, so they simply sat down together after looking around for a while. 4 hours passed by slowly amidst the torment and waiting. The 4 hours were neither fast nor slow. It started at 9 o'clock in the morning and ended at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. During this period, Qin Guang and Qin Guili stood up and looked outside the operating room many times. They knew that it was useless and they couldn't see anything, but they couldn't control their mood to do such a meaningless thing. Qin Guang was actually quite sleepy at this time, but he couldn't close his eyes at all. He stared at the operating room door. Qin Guang, don't be afraid. It will be fine. Sun Xiaoxuan whispered to him. Qin Guang nodded and then shook his head. I know, but knowing it doesn't mean I can do it. During this period, the door opened several times, and the assistant came out twice to ask Qin Guili to sign. When he signed, Qin Guang and Qin Guili were constantly asking questions. However, the assistant was well versed in communicating with patients. Hence, he only managed to calm the two of them down, but he didn't make things clear. Tang Ying, the only person who could tell the truth to Qin Guang, was the chief surgeon inside and had no time to care about what was happening outside. Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, Wang Qin and the others arrived at about noon. They brought lunch for Qin Guang and the other two and then waited here with them. Finally, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but the door was still not opened. At this moment, the hearts of Qin Guang and his son started to rise. Sun Xiaoxuan subconsciously grabbed Qin Guang's hand. He was also so nervous that his knuckles turned white. The usual kidney transplant surgery only took 4 hours, and it would only be slower if the surgery was not going well. The father and son looked at each other. Qin Guili said, there won't be any problems, will there? Qin Guang shook his head. No, it shouldn't be. This is the best kidney source. At 1:30, the door of the operating room finally opened. Tang Ying, who looked exhausted, pulled off her mask as she walked out. Qin Guang stood up and ran to Tang Ying. Tang Ying looked up at him and grinned. The surgery was very successful. Along with Tang Ying's smile, the sky and the earth suddenly became clear. The heavy pressure that had been weighing on Qin Guang's heart for nearly a year disappeared at this moment. God has eyes. Hearing Tang Ying's words and seeing the smile on her face, Qin Guang and his son felt that their hearts were about to fly. Chapter 285. But you guys can't go in yet. The patient hasn't completely woken up from the anesthesia, so you'll probably have to wait for a while. After that, there'll be 24 hours of special care. When it's about time, I'll inform you guys to go in. Tang Ying spoke again and patted Qin Guang's shoulder heavily. She then bade farewell to Lu Fei and the others before turning around to head for the office. She was a little tired and needed to rest. After taking 2 steps, Tang Ying turned around again and saw Qin Guang and Qin Guili hugging each other, tears streaming down their faces. The shoulders of the father and son twitched wildly, but they suppressed their voices, not daring to disturb the operation room with loud noises. This past year, the 2 men in this family had shouldered far too much pressure, and they finally vented it all at this moment. They were free. Tang Ying looked at the father and son from afar and couldn't turn around for a long time. When she suddenly came back to her senses, she discovered that there were 2 clear lines of tears on her face. Sun Xiaoxuan looked at Qin Guang and Qin Guang from the side and couldn't hold back his tears either. Qin Guang could only grit his teeth and bear it no matter how hard it was. He never complained to anyone and always put on a cheeky smile in front of others to hide the enormous pressure on his heart and shoulders. This was because he firmly believed that as long as he faced it with a smile, no matter how hard his fate was, it wouldn't force him to the end of the road. Thank the heavens he endured it. This was because hidden under the mischievous appearance was a body that was as hard as iron. Wearing this armor made of iron, it was naturally able to withstand the thousands of cuts of life. In the most difficult time, Lioli appeared in his life with the transcending Holy Grail. Although there were many bumps until now, he still gritted his teeth and endured it with Lioli's help. Lu Fei stood to the side and looked at Qin Guang's almost tearful appearance. She recalled his incomparably domineering and cold-hearted attitude when he was racing. At this moment, the 2 completely different figures gradually overlapped. A strange emotion surged in the depths of her heart. Sun Xiaoxuan was in an even worse state. If it weren't for the many strangers around them and the fact that Qin Guang and his father were hugging each other and crying, she wouldn't have been able to muster up the courage to do so. Otherwise, she would have rushed forward and hugged Qin Guang tightly. Finally, after waiting for more than 2 hours, Qin Guang and Qin Guili went in with Tang Ying's permission to have a short chat with Feng Rong. The family of 3 sighed again. On the other side, Lu Fei and Zhong Bai left first because of their respective companies' matters. Wang Qing's physical condition was not very good, so he went back to rest first. Sun Xiaoxuan originally wanted to stay with them, but Qin Guang asked her to go back to school. There was a final exam at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Qin Guang knew that if he didn't study for the exam, he would definitely die. There was no need for Sun Xiaoxuan to accompany him to fail the exam. She didn't want to break her golden record of never failing a subject in university for 4 years. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't care so much about it, but Qin Guang said that his mother must be out of danger now, and there was no possibility of any relapse or rejection, so he had to drive her away. Tang Ying was very puzzled by Qin Guang's absolute confidence. She found an opportunity to quietly call him to her dormitory and asked in private, "Why do I feel that you are more confident than me? Although the donor's kidney is indeed a perfect match, it's my job as a doctor to make a judgment. How can you be so sure?" Tang Ying couldn't help but be curious. If it were any other patient's family, they would be most concerned about the immune rejection at this time. Qin Guili was almost the same. However, ever since the surgery was completed, Qin Guang didn't ask about it from beginning to end. He only expressed his gratitude to her. How could Qin Guang tell her that this kidney was obtained by using the power of fate of the heavenly Holy Grail? Its compatibility was absolutely the best in the world. There was absolutely no way that there would be any problems. Unless the heavenly Holy Grail was filled with water. But that was obviously impossible. He only scratched his head and grinned. Intuition. Intuition my ass. Forget it, I won't argue with you. Anyway, I've done my duty as a friend. Now tell me, how are you going to make up for my shattered self-esteem? Of course, Tang Ying was referring to the fact that Qin Guang didn't want her to be Feng Rong's attending physician. Qin Guang was also embarrassed. I've apologized to you so many times. Why aren't you letting me off the hook? How about this, I'll treat you to a meal some other day. Tang Ying spat at him and tapped his forehead with her finger. Do you think I'm only short of money for a meal? That's right. After all, you're a tycoon who lives in a duplex. So, if our Dr. Tang doesn't mind my young teeth, how about I give my body to you? Qin Guang moved his face forward with a smirk. The distance between the two suddenly became very close. Tang Ying, who was sitting on the chair, looked up at him. Her mind subconsciously recalled the scene when she pinched the thing in his pants. Her face turned red, but she immediately reacted. She sneered and lowered her head to look at Qin Guang's crotch with disdain. It's not that I can't accept your young teeth. After all, although this doctor is older than you by a few years, I'm quite good at taking care of myself. I won't age much faster than you. It's just that if this problem of yours isn't cured, I will never consider you. Hey, you know what I mean. As Tang Ying spoke, a meaningful smile appeared on her face. Qin Guang gasped. He originally wanted to tease this drunk lady, but he didn't expect to be teased instead. Why does she still remember that? Can we still be friends? Hey, let me put it this way. I'm doing your mother's surgery. Maybe you think I'm doing you a big favor, but I don't think so. Your mother is my patient. It's only natural for a doctor to treat a patient. It doesn't count as me repaying you for saving me from being molested. Anyway, I've made up my mind. For a boy of your age, this problem is indeed difficult to talk about. You must be too embarrassed to look for a doctor. I can understand that. So, leave your disease to me. Promise me don't give up on treatment, okay? As Tang Ying spoke, she stood up and patted Qin Guang's shoulder with her right hand. She lowered her head and looked at him with a burning gaze. I really didn't. Qin Guang was about to cry. He was in a good mood today, so much so that he was a little too arrogant. He actually dared to tease this lady. Now he really regretted it. He wished he could eat his own tongue. Trying to explain is equivalent to covering up. I understand. It's also an illness if it's too short and it can be cured. Alright, I'll stop bickering with you. You won't be able to enter the ICU for the next 2 days. I think you should go back to school and take your exams. You won't be of much help here anyway, Tang Ying said as she walked out of the dorm room, leaving Qin Guang alone in the lonely wind. After she opened the door, she turned her head and looked at Qin Guang with a smile. Out of the blue she said, "You've changed." Chapter 286. After Tang Ying walked far away, Qin Guang picked up the heavenly holy grail and drank a mouthful of tea. He lowered his head and caressed the cup, thinking to himself, perhaps she's right, I have indeed changed. In the past, no matter how much he fooled around, there would always be something hidden in his heart that he couldn't get rid of. But from today onwards, Qin Guang knew that he was different from the past. Perhaps he could put it in another way. Could he return to the person he was a year ago? Living a carefree life of the rich generation? But when he thought of this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. You can be smug all you want, but don't blame this empress for not saying the ugly words first. The power of destiny has already completely helped your mother, and your punishment realm may descend at any time. At this moment, Lioli's voice rang out in his heart. Hey, what do you mean by descending at any time? Can you give me a more precise time? What exactly was the realm of punishment? Can we give you some information in advance? I'm so freaking panicking. Qin Guang asked in a panic. Lioli's figure gradually appeared in his mind. This woman was really frugal. She still didn't wear the lustrous feather dress, and even the white mist that was used to cover her body was reduced to a shrunken version, only covering the most important parts of her body. Even her belly button was exposed. Clearly, after being taken advantage of by Qin Guang last time, she had decided to give up. She shrugged. I can't. Why? Because I don't know what it will be, so I can't tell you either. F***CK. Are you F***King kidding me? A dignified god emperor is so weak? Don't waste your breath. In any case, just deal with the situation as it comes. I can give you a little reminder. Think about it, what is this so-called fate? You touched the fate of your loved ones and obtained benefits. Then how do you think fate will punish you? The more you gain, the more you will lose. You can slowly ponder over this sentence. This old lady won't be accompanying you. After saying that, Lioli's figure gradually faded, intending to escape. What are you going to do? Qin Guang stopped him. Lioli smiled proudly. As the financial steward of the Savior, I have to learn some knowledge. You mortals are really interesting. It's just the principle of bartering, but you call it commerce. There are so many tricks in it. It's really broad and profound. I've never seen anything so interesting in the 10 billion years I've lived in the endless god realm. It's the best way to pass the time. This emperor is leaving. Lori was right. Given her status in the endless divine realm, as the daughter of the master god of chaos, she could have anything she wanted. Even if she occasionally made a deal, it would be nothing more than using something stolen from the master god of chaos to trade for something else. Business was a new field of study for her. This time she really ran away. Qin Guang's face was ashen as he held the cup. He felt his heart ache when he thought of the 183 million in his UBS account. This feeling was basically the same as opening a chicken farm at home and having 700 or 800 weasels living on the mountain next door. It was impossible to guard against and completely hopeless. Should I secretly turn all of it into cash and bury it in the ground? Just as this thought emerged in his mind, Lioli's voice immediately came again. It's useless even if you turn it into cash. I have ways to make you obediently submit. I advise you to be sensible and not force me to use my ultimate move. *CK. A naked threat. I can't do anything about it. My family's cheat is so high-end. She's actually threatening me. This is so King ridiculous. Alright, I admit it. I can indeed return to my old self from a year ago, a carefree, poor second generation. Rich second generation whatever, just let it go with the wind. When Qin Guang returned to the school dormitory, it was already past 6 in the evening. Lin Jingwei and the others had just finished their exams and were rushing back. Qin Guang also called Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ye, and Zhuo Jingxi and booked a table at the elegant pavilion outside the school. Before coming back, he had said that he would treat these few people who knew that he had made a fortune and were the closest to him. At the same time, he would treat it as a celebration of the great success of his mother's surgery. In addition, Qin Guang also planned to drag the whole class to a food stall in Wenxing Town after he finished the remaining 4 environmental physics and modern chemistry exams the day after tomorrow. There was no other way. That was how confident he was when he was rich. It was better to spend some of it before he squandered it all for Lioli. It would be too sad to return to being a pauper without enjoying the life of a rich person. Oh right, since Lioli was burning at least tens of thousands of phone bills every month, he might as well go to the business office later and slap her for $1 million in phone bills. That's right, I'm such a tycoon. I feel uncomfortable if I don't top up $1 million in phone bills every time. Spending money that's about to go down the drain doesn't hurt at all. Oh right, the little girl in the business office in town seems to be quite pure. If I top up $1 million in phone bills with her, she will definitely get a lot of commission, right? My sales will also soar, right? I wonder if I can seduce her into throwing herself at me? I'm looking forward to it just thinking about it. Don't talk about feelings with me, just come for my money. Love me hard. As he thought about it, he was almost drooling. Do you guys think Brother Guang's illness is acting up? Why don't we take him to the school hospital? I'm getting goosebumps from seeing him like this. At that moment, Bai Nyangzi's voice rang in his ears. Qin Guang came back to his senses and saw the guy's big face inches away. He quickly got up and pushed him away. Qin Guang said angrily, "Show some respect to a billionaire. Otherwise, I'll make sure that you have no place in the environmental protection industry." What the *CK? So what if you're rich? I recently started a new book on Qidian Women's Channel. It's very popular and I'm planning to switch to being a writer. Bai Nyangzi was fearless. On the other side, Lin Jingwei was furious. Did you write the book you asked me to recommend to my cousin a few days ago? The Billionaire Young Master's Cruel Spoiled Wife, Please Love Me 1001 Times? Blarg. What a scary title. Qin Guang and Xiong Jinka couldn't hold it in anymore. Bai Nyangzi's invincible title caused them 10,000 points of damage. Damn it, this grandson has finally embarked on the road of no return, this dead sissy that can't be saved. I'll pay you 100 yuan. Please drag him out and chop him to death. Qin Guang decided to use money to talk. The 4 of them made a ruckus in the dormitory until Gao Ye called to hurry them up. Qin Guang was actually very happy. He knew that the 3 grandsons in his dormitory were not that kind of ordinary people. Even if they saw him make a fortune in Hong Kong, they could still gather together and laugh happily after coming back. Money was a worldly possession. It was hard to find a good brother in life. In other words, the money that Luli was eyeing was a worldly possession. Brother Guang, you're so rich now. Why don't you help me invest? Let me tell you, you only need to invest 100,000 yuan and help me get an average of 10,000 subscriptions for 3 months. When I become a goddess in the female market, I'll give you half of the copyright fee for the TV series adaptation of my book. I guarantee that you'll earn 2 million yuan. Well, except for Bai Nyangzi. He didn't need a brother like this. Qin Guang and the other 2 kicked Bai Nyangzi, the new goddess in the female market, into the flower bed. The 3 of them said in unison, "We'd better break off our friendship with him." Unfortunately, Zhuo Jingxi, who had come to pick up Bai Nyangzi, saw the 3 of them bullying him. She rushed forward and taught Qin Guang a lesson. "What are you doing? Why are you bullying Bai Fan?" Zhuo Jingxi had the air of a counselor. Qin Guang pointed at Bai Nyangzi and said, "He's been writing a web novel recently. It's for the female market. The title is Billionaire Young Master's Cruel Doting Little Wife. Please love me 1,001 more times. What do you think, Teacher Zhua? Zhuo Jingxi took a step back. Please kick him further away. You bunch of inhumane people. You're killing the dream of a young literary man. Bai Nyangzi roared angrily as he watched the four of them walk away. Chapter 287. Qin Guang hadn't been so relaxed in a long time. In the private room of the Qingya Pavilion, he even lifted his ban on alcohol and had all kinds of drinks with Bramble. They had just gotten to know each other. Why wasn't Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi there? That was because the two of them pretended to be dead on the table not long after the fight started. Only Xiong a fierce tiger by the Mudanjiang River, could keep up with Qin Guang's rhythm. Sun Xiaoshuan wanted to persuade Qin Guang to drink less, but Zhuo Jingxi pulled him back and whispered, "It's okay. He's happy today, so it's okay to drink a little more. He's been holding these things in his heart for a whole year. Now that he's finally free, it's better to drink to release his mood. Otherwise it's very tiring to keep it bottled up all the time." Sun Xiaoshuan nodded, thinking that Teacher Zhuo understood people better. Zhuo Jingxi just smiled as she watched Qin Guang and Xiong compete with each other. She was also filled with emotion. Who would have thought that this inconspicuous guy could drive the scum Wang Ren out of school, shoulder the burden of his family, and quietly leave a miracle in Xiangjiang that countless people would look up to? Gaoya quietly pulled on Sun Xiaoshuan's sleeve and whispered, "Look at the way Teacher Zhuo looks at Qin Guang. Something's wrong." Sun Xiaoshuan rolled his eyes at her. "Don't talk nonsense. Why did you draw a turtle on Lin Jingwei's face?" "I've been learning how to draw comics recently. I saw that his face is quite big, so it's easy to draw." Xiong felt like he had run into a ghost today. Before Qin Guang's family went bankrupt, the four of them often went to the school to drink beer and barbecue. If he remembered correctly, although Qin Guang's alcohol tolerance was good, it was only slightly better than Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi. As the Tiger of the Northeast, it was not difficult for him to take down 3 people by himself. It was just that it was very tiring to be responsible for carrying 3 people at a time. In the past year, because of Qin Guang's family matters, everyone rarely came out to drink. Qin Guang himself almost didn't drink because he had to drive. Xiong never had the chance to show off his superiority in drinking. But what was going on today? Was this guy on steroids or something? His alcohol tolerance was completely unreasonable. Did he become a leaky spoon or a bottomless pit? Cup after cup, he simply couldn't stop. However, he didn't get drunk even after 1,000 cups, and he didn't collapse no matter what. Xiong felt that he could not hold on any longer, but he felt that as the god of wine, the more he was in a life-and-death situation, the more he couldn't be a coward and he couldn't stop it. Poor Xiong didn't know that Qin Guang had been reborn since a month ago. As the second officer of the Enroyal, a veteran pirate famous in the Sea of Time, apart from being able to fight without fear of death, how could his life as a pirate not be stimulated by alcohol? The Sea of Time from the 8th tier of the Heavenly Holy Grail was just that useful, and the effect was just that obvious. Apart from practicing English well for Qin Guang, and leaving behind a body of pirate fighting skills, he also inherited the alcohol tolerance that he had trained by drinking big mouthfuls of hard liquor at sea. It was just that Qin Guang didn't drink much in the past. Finally, Xiong Jinka's head tilted to one side and he fell down. Qin Guang laughed like a victorious general and pointed at Xiong's head. "Poor weakling. Fight with me? Practice for another 20 years. Save it. You only know how to drink and you don't even know how to pick up food. Won't the table full of dishes be wasted? Won't your stomach hurt?" Zhuo Jingxi said as she picked up a piece of crystal twice-cooked pork and put it in Qin Guang's bowl. Although Sun Xiaoshuan told Gaoya not to talk nonsense, he immediately stuffed a fat crystal pork knuckle into Qin Guang's bowl. At this time, Qin Guang was actually a little drunk, and he couldn't react to the secret confrontation between Sun Xiaoshuan and Zhuo Jingxi. He just ate happily. When they paid the bill and were ready to leave, Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi, who had raised the white flag at the beginning, came back to their senses. Obviously, these two guys had rich experience in pretending to be dead at the table. Poor Lin Jingwei, who had been sober the whole time, was forced to endure Gaoya's graffiti until Gaoya painted 8 turtles all over his face. It was true love. When the 7 of them returned to the academy, Qin Guang took the lead with Sun Xiaoshuan and Zhuo Jingxi standing by his side to prevent him from suddenly going crazy when he's already 80% drunk from going crazy. Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi carried Xiong Jinka, who was as heavy as Mount Tai, with one arm on each side. They couldn't wait to throw him to the side of the road. Sun Xiaoshuan pulled Qin Guang, who had tripped with his left foot, and said anxiously, "Slow down, Qin Guang. You are drunk." "Drunk? Don't joke, I'm not drunk. This little bit of alcohol is nothing. Back then, when I was on the Shiyu, I drank more than this and I could still rush to someone's boat and kill him." Qin Guang waved his hand, refusing to admit that he was drunk. He picked up his phone and called Wenwen. He really wanted to share his feelings with her at this time. Usually, he would be worried about contacting Wenwen in front of Sun Xiaoshuan and Zhuo Jingxi. But now he didn't think about it at all. It was a pity that Wenwen had already returned to Beijing. Her final exams had ended 2 days earlier, and she had left last night. It seemed that something urgent had happened at home. Qin Guang felt exceptionally regretful. Luckily, before he hung up, Wenwen had added that he would look for her after the results of the CET4 were out. She would not go back on her word. At this moment, Qin Guang's mood instantly turned better. "What did you bet with Wenwen?" Sun Xiaoshuan, who was beside him, popped his head over and asked. Qin Guang chuckled. Heaven's secrets must not be revealed. The next 2 to 3 days were perhaps the most relaxing and enjoyable days Qin Guang had spent in the past year. Unlike the others who still had to prepare for the environmental physics and modern chemistry foundation exams, Master Guang was decisive from the beginning and did not expect to pass. The kneeling posture of failing the exams was also quite straightforward. This kind of carefree feeling of surrendering before the battle had even begun was something that his comrades who were barely on the verge of failing the exams could not be envious of. B*TC. We're still sprinting tirelessly, can you not turn on the game? Lin Jingwei and the others protested in all sorts of ways. Qin Guang simply shook his head. Do you guys want me to turn on the stereo and share the happy gaming experience? If you guys plan to take the makeup exams with me when school reopens, I don't mind you guys playing games with me. After waiting for about 2 days, Feng Rong was successfully transferred back to the intensive care unit. Just as Qin Guang had expected, there was almost no immune rejection at all. Even Tang Ying sighed that she had never seen a kidney transplant with such a high compatibility rate. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was a miracle in the history of medicine. In this regard, Qin Guang only smiled and did not say anything. The more amazed the others were, the more scared he felt. The more you gain, the more you lose. These words that Lu Li left for him gradually shrouded his heart in the past 2 days. What exactly will happen? What exactly is waiting for me? I'm so confused. Just as he sat in the ward and let his imagination run wild, an unexpected person walked in. It was Wu Tong. She strode inside and said carelessly, I say, where are you? Tang Ying, you damn girl, are you done? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 288. Wu Tong strode into the ward, calling Tang Ying's name. In her heart, she muttered, Brat, this is a chance encounter that I created with my own hands. You can't stop me from taking advantage of it, can you? Then, just as she had expected, Qin Guang, Tang Ying, and Feng Rong all turned their heads to look at her in confusion. Didn't I tell you to wait for me in the office? What are you doing in the ward? Tang Ying frowned. She felt very puzzled. Wu Tong had come to the hospital to look for her more than once, but she had never barged in when she was making ward rounds with patients. Did she have something urgent to do today? As she spoke, Tang Ying came over and pushed Wu Tong out. She turned to Qin Guang and his mother and said, Excuse me, this is my good friend Wu Tong. Then Tang Ying immediately whispered in Wu Tong's ear, Go to my dormitory first. I'll be there in a few minutes. I don't know what's so urgent about you. Don't come to my patient's room. However, Wu Tong used a little strength to stop Tang Ying. It was not easy for her to barge in. How could she be pushed away so easily? Then she turned to look at Qin Guang with a very complicated expression. There was the surprise of a chance encounter, a hint of surprise and a little bit of anxiety. She said, Qin Guang, why are you here? In such a short moment she had perfectly acted out her original intention of looking for Tang Ying, but in fact she was here to meet Qin Guang by chance. With such acting skills she could win the Oscar for Best Actress and the Palme d'Or. Qin Guang was really fooled by her. There was a touch of embarrassment on his face. He forced a smile and said, Hi. He didn't expect that Wu Tong would appear in his mother's ward. What he said to her that day was quite excessive, and it was clear that he wanted to cut ties with her and become a stranger. Qin Guang felt that with Wu Tong's intelligence, it was impossible that she didn't understand his unspoken words. He also knew that with her proud personality, it was almost impossible for her to take the initiative to apologize to him. Over the past few days, Qin Guang occasionally wondered if Wu Tong would come to Wujing City Hospital or the school to look for him. However, she didn't move at all. There was a slight sense of disappointment in her heart, but more than that, she was relieved. Qin Guang told himself that since he had made the decision at that time, he shouldn't regret it. It was a good thing for both Wu Tong and himself. When he realized that Wu Tongjin was still trapped in the aftereffects of Liuli hypnosis, Qin Guang made up his mind. It was not that he thought highly of himself, but he simply felt guilty towards Wu Tong. This kind of relationship was too unfair to Wu Tong. Qin Guang couldn't get over it. If he accepted this kind of relationship, he would be the most despicable person. As long as he drifted further and further away from her, she would eventually be able to forget him and free herself from Liuli's emotional control. When that day came, they would become strangers. If they could still be friends, it would be good to get to know each other again. If they were destined to become strangers, it would be considered as an explanation to her. However, Qin Guang never expected that he would reunite with her like this. It was completely unexpected. You guys know each other? Tang Ying, who was also kept in the dark, first looked at Qin Guang, then turned to look at Wu Tong. Wu Tong nodded. Yeah, of course we know each other. Qin Guang also nodded and stood up. Hello, Sister Wu Tong. This is my mom, Feng Rong. Mom, let me introduce you. This is Wu Tong, my... Before Qin Guang could finish his sentence, Wu Tong had already come up to him and patted his shoulder. She was completely different from how she was when she was quarreling with Qin Guang a few days ago. Hello, Auntie Feng. Qin Guang hasn't had the time to tell you an uncle yet, right? He acknowledged me as his sister some time ago. Before the dumbfounded Qin Guang could react, Wu Tong turned around and smiled at Tang Ying. Hey, what a coincidence. Tang Ying, Qin Guang is the younger brother that I've just acknowledged. Then Wu Tong grabbed Tang Ying and turned to Qin Guang. You might not believe it, but Miss Ying and I have known each other since elementary school. We are best friends. Qin Guang did not finish his sentence. Wu Tong immediately turned to Feng Rong and smiled sweetly at her. If I had known that Auntie Feng was recuperating here, I wouldn't have come empty-handed. It's all Qin Guang's fault for not telling me the truth. Feng Rong was also very confused. However, Wu Tong's valiant appearance in her police uniform left a very good first impression on her. As it was inconvenient for her to get up, she nodded and smiled at Wu Tong as a greeting. Xiao Wu. Hello. Feng Rong briefly hesitated. She initially wanted to address Wu Tong as Officer Wu, but she was dumbfounded by Wu Tong's familiarity, especially when Wu Tong mentioned that Qin Guang had treated her as his sister. After some pondering, she decided to call Wu Tong as Little Wu. Tang Ying chatted with her in the ward for a few more minutes. After all, she still had other patients to take care of, so she had to leave. Wu Tong completely played the leading role. She chatted with the talkative Feng Rong and helped her peel fruits. In the end, Feng Rong could not eat them, so she stuffed them all to Qin Guang. Up until now, Qin Guang had roughly guessed Wu Tong's thoughts. He thought that she might want to take advantage of this chance encounter to ease their relationship. Never did Qin Guang expect that she would lower herself in such a manner. At this moment, Qin Guang couldn't speak as harshly as he did back then, especially in the ward. Wu Tong was already chatting passionately with her mother, telling how she got to know Qin Guang and Qin Guang once caught a thief, and Qin Guang helped out as a good citizen. Since then, the two became familiar with each other. They felt that they hit it off, so they acknowledged each other as brother and sister. Wu Tong's words were mixed with lies. She said it in front of Qin Guang, which could be considered as helping Qin Guang clean up his mess. She did not mention that he got into a fight at school and sent someone to the hospital, which was completely in line with Qin Guang's wishes. However, Wu Tong came here with the excuse that she had something to discuss with Tang Ying. After sitting for a while, Tang Ying called her after she was done with her work. Wu Tong could only secretly roll her eyes, but had no choice but to leave for the time being. After Wu Tong left, Feng Rong called Qin Guang in front of her and said, "This police sister of yours is quite a nice person." Qin Guang responded helplessly, "Yeah, she's quite nice. By the way, if we really want to acknowledge her as our god sister, we have to meet her family, right?" Feng Rong said again. Qin Guang scratched his head. "Let's not talk about this for now. We youngsters are just joking around, so don't take it seriously. You elders shouldn't get involved." "That's not how you put it. Wu Tong is a 25-year-old police comrade, unlike you who are still ignorant. Since you have acknowledged her as your sister, she must have agreed after careful consideration. You can't think of fooling around. No, when I get out of the hospital, we'll meet her family. It's not a bad idea to become in-laws. I really like her. She reminds me of your real sister." Feng Rong's eyes turned red as she spoke. Qin Guang was stunned. My real sister? Chapter 289. Feng Rong nodded. If she was still alive, she would be 25 years old, right? Qin Guang felt that something was amiss. Suddenly, Qin Guoli's voice came from behind Qin Guang. He had just finished his surgery. It sounded a little low. He patted Qin Guang's back. Your mom didn't spout nonsense. It's all my fault for not being able to do anything back then. What's going on? Qin Guang was baffled. Actually, there was an older sister before you. Your mom was only 19 years old and she was born with congenital heart disease. Our family was poor and there was no medical care. She died in less than 3 months. It's been so many years and we can't do anything about it. In the past, everyone was poor and the medical care was far from what it is now. It's not just your sister. Many families on the street lost their children just like that. Even if we can't figure it out, we have to. We didn't mention it all these years because we didn't want to feel sad. Qin Guoli said slowly. On the other side, Feng Rong nodded with an indescribable loneliness on her face. Qin Guoli quickly went forward to comfort her. It's been so long. You just had an operation. Don't let it affect your emotions. Feng Rong nodded. I know. I just couldn't hold it in. After that, she raised her head and looked at Qin Guang. I really like Wu Tong and this is fate. Feng Rong explained Wu Tong's background to Qin Guoli. Qin Guoli thought it was a good idea. Although Qin Guang seemed unreliable most of the time, the couple had always trusted his judgment. Qin Guang had taken the initiative to ask someone else to be his sister, and Wu Tong was a police officer and likable. It was a good idea for them to become in-laws. Of course, to Qin Guoli, Feng Rong was the main reason. As long as his wife liked her, he would support her unconditionally. Seeing that the two of them were getting more serious, Qin Guang was helpless and could only bite the bullet. He first searched for news about Wu Tong's father, Wu Shan, and handed it over. Take a look at this. Forget it. Wu Tong and I were really just casually talking about it. This is her father. Who do you think he is? How could he become our godson so easily? The two elders read the news about Wu Shan word by word and sighed again. The thoughts of the older generation were much more worldly than those of Qin Guang. Even without Qin Guang's explanation, the two of them knew that it was impossible once they saw Wu Shan's identity. It didn't matter what the youngster said in private, but if it involved the adults with the other party's status, he really couldn't get close to them. What a pity. Feng Rong sighed. Qin Guoli also said, yeah, what a pity. Qin Guang couldn't bear to see the two of them moaning and groaning. He got up and found a random reason to go outside to talk to Wu Tong. He thought that although his parents understood Wu Tong's family background and knew that it was impossible for them to become in-laws, Wu Tong still had to explain herself if he wanted them to stop feeling regretful over this kind of thing. Back then, she had said the joke in front of his mother, and even made his mother fall in love with him because of his biological sister, who had passed away, which he didn't know about. He couldn't just ignore it. Up until now, Qin Guang really thought that it was purely a chance encounter. Perhaps Wu Tong really felt apologetic about what happened that day, so when she saw him, she made such a prompt decision to ease their relationship. But the more Wu Tong showed that she cared about Qin Guang, the more uncomfortable Qin Guang felt. The root of the matter was because of Lioli's god-level hypnosis. She said that emotional control was better than mental control, but in the end, the repercussions were so severe. If he had known that this day would come, Qin Guang would never have agreed to emotional control. Now he couldn't figure out how he should get along with Wu Tong. Although they were friends, she seemed to be more than friends but not lovers. Although they had feelings between a man and a woman, it was impossible to erase the hypnosis that made her fall in love with him for a short period of time. In fact, Qin Guang secretly felt that even ordinary friendship couldn't get rid of the influence of that hypnosis. Otherwise, why would Wu Tong treat him so differently when she had interacted with so many people? Qin Guang looked up at the sky and sighed. I didn't want to be pretentious, but I had no choice but to be pretentious in this situation. He couldn't get over it, especially when Wu Tong actually took the initiative to humble herself after seeing him, which made him feel even more apologetic. On the other hand, Tang Ying thought that Wu Tong really had something important to do, so she hurriedly finished her work and returned to the dormitory. From the beginning, Wu Tong came for Qin Guang, so how could she really find anything important to tell Tang Ying? After being asked again and again, she had no choice but to beat around the bush. However, the more Wu Tong tried to be secretive, the more Tang Ying took it seriously, and the more she thought that she really had encountered some big trouble that she couldn't talk about. Tang Ying was almost driven mad by Wu Tong's taiji fist. Finally she flipped out. I say, what are you doing? I thought you had something important, but you didn't say anything? Are you trying to suffocate me to death? Wu Tong's head was full of bumps from Tang Ying's interrogation. She regretted it so much that her intestines turned green. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have barged into the ward. She should have sat in her office and waited for Qin Guang to walk into the trap. Seeing her bashful look, Tang Ying said anxiously, "What is it? Just say it." "It's definitely not about watching a movie or something like that. Don't try to fool me. You can't be pretending to look for me, but you're actually looking for Qin Guang, right?" As soon as the words came out of her mouth, something flashed across Tang Ying's mind. She pretended to be enlightened. "Oh yeah, didn't you ask me on the phone the other day if the patient's name was Feng Rong? You should have known about it long ago. Why do you look like you don't know about it at all today? What's going on?" Wu Tong didn't expect Tang Ying to be so quick-witted and expose her in an instant. How could she admit that she had a conflict with Chen Guang in front of her best friend and that she was here to admit defeat? She stubbornly said, "What nonsense are you talking about? It's really a coincidence. I know that Qin Guang's mother's name is Feng Rong. I bumped into him by chance when I came to your place last time. He said that he brought his mother to the hospital for a minor illness. I just said it subconsciously that day. Who would have thought that I would actually guess it correctly?" Fine. You can say whatever you want. I can't be bothered to argue with you. I'm not as free as a third-generation heir like you. You can do whatever you want. I'm going back to work." At this point, Wu Tong still refused to admit it. She only said it was a coincidence. Tang Ying had no choice but to roll his eyes and leave. Hearing the door open, Qin Guang, who was eavesdropping on the conversation outside the dormitory, dodged and hid in the corridor next to him. With his back against the wall, Qin Guang was at a loss. Tang Ying couldn't figure it out, but Qin Guang immediately understood. Wu Tong had come to look for him on purpose today. The so-called coincidence was just her doing it on purpose. She just wanted to create an opportunity for herself to appear in front of him. "Why did you do this?" Chapter 290. Why are you here? While Qin Guang was still in a daze, Wu Tong appeared at the entrance of the corridor. She saw Qin Guang leaning against the wall with a desolate look on his face. As soon as their eyes met, they vaguely understood each other's thoughts. Wu Tong was frightened by the apologetic look in Qin Guang's eyes. In fact, she would rather Qin Guang still be enraged than to see him apologetic. She didn't want an apology from Qin Guang at all. She just wanted forgiveness because she knew that she was in the wrong that day. But why is he looking at me apologetically? Why is he apologetic? Of course, it's because he still wants to keep her at arm's length. "I heard what you said to Sister Tang Ying just now. You don't have to be like this." Qin Guang blushed and turned his face away. He didn't want to see Wu Tong's flustered look. "What? You heard everything?" Wu Tong's face turned red in an instant. She thought, what should I do now? It wasn't easy for me to create this chance encounter, and now I've ruined it. How embarrassing. She couldn't help but feel helpless and her ears were burning. Seeing her like this and thinking that she had deliberately created this chance encounter, Qin Guang's heart was almost swallowed by shame. He said, "Let's forget about what happened that day. I've reflected on myself. My attitude was too bad. If I had calmed down and explained it to you, things wouldn't have turned out this way. I'm sorry." Wu Tong came back to her senses and waved her hands anxiously. No. It's my fault. Qin Guang, listen to me." Wu Tong didn't want to give him a chance to speak again. She continued like a machine gun. "I really didn't know what happened that day. If I had known that your mother was going to have such a big operation, I definitely wouldn't have pestered you endlessly. Yes, I know my behavior at that time seemed ridiculous. I was indeed pestering you endlessly. But I don't know why did it turn out like this?" Qin Guang shook his head. You really don't have to blame yourself." Wu Tong continued to ask, "So you can forgive me?" Qin Guang really couldn't stand her being so humble. He felt that it was simply torturing himself. "There's nothing to forgive or not. I can't explain it clearly to you. You were in that situation because of me, but I really can't explain it. So I forget it. Anyway, I don't blame you, don't be like this. She doesn't look like the Wu Tong I know. So you still recognize me as your sister?" He finally relented. Wu Tong heaved a sigh of relief and looked at him expectantly. Qin Guang was defeated by the look in her eyes. Even if he felt that something was wrong, he really couldn't say anything hurtful. He could only continue to nod. "Yes, of course I recognize you as my sister. Although he said that, in his heart, Qin Guang was thinking that he should deal with her first. He really couldn't see her like this. Anyway, he would agree to it today and contact her less in the future. Slowly their relationship would fade, wouldn't it? Suddenly, when he said that he recognized her as his sister, his heart inexplicably palpitated. An extremely strong sense of crisis suddenly appeared, but it flashed and then disappeared without a trace. When he came back to his senses, Qin Guang actually felt that his back was drenched in sweat at that moment. What the hell is going on? Qin Guang, who had never had such an experience, couldn't help but wonder if he was sick. The terrifying feeling of falling into a great crisis came without warning. It was extremely sudden, and the key point was that he didn't even know what the situation was. Do I have a mental illness? Intermittent mental disorder? Qin Guang was extremely puzzled. Qin Guang, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? Wu Tong was also startled by Qin Guang's sudden change in complexion. She went over and placed her hand on Qin Guang's forehead to see if he had a fever. Qin Guang shook his head. I'm fine. I'm a little not used to your polite manner, ha. He laughed it off and managed to fool her. Wu Tong's mood completely turned from gloomy to sunny. And it's good that you're fine. I've finally talked things through with you. I'm also free from worries. All of a sudden I feel a lot more relaxed. Actually, I'm not used to speaking so politely with you. Ah. She said proudly as she patted Qin Guang's shoulder. Right, I still have a while before I go on patrol. I didn't see your dad just now. Let's go back and sit for a while. Wu Tong said again as she pulled Qin Guang back. After a few steps she stopped, turned around and asked tentatively, Right, there's really nothing between you and Sun Xiaoxuan, right? Qin Guang had a headache. Nothing at the moment, but I can't say for sure in the future. Sun Xiaoxuan is a good person and I quite like her. Wu Tong's expression changed slightly, but she quickly controlled her mood. She put her hand on Qin Guang's shoulder and put her arm around his back. You're still young and you're not mature enough in terms of feelings. Don't casually make a decision to harm other girls. You have to be responsible for yourself and also for others. This kind of thing, as your older sister, I have to help you check. She said righteously, but in her heart, she had already cursed herself like a pig. Wu Tong, what the hell are you thinking in your head? Qin Guang really wanted to tell her directly that her older sister's so-called checking should be replaced with stealing, right? But in the end he didn't say it because he knew that Wu Tong wouldn't admit it. Right, how did you practice your acting skills? I was completely fooled by you before, and I thought it was a coincidence that you came to find me. In order to prevent her from being too arrogant, Qin Guang decisively decided to expose her scars first. Unexpectedly, he underestimated Wu Tong's shamelessness. As long as he talked it out with him and returned to his normal state, Wu Tong would not be caught by his little tricks. Instead of feeling ashamed, he proudly raised his eyebrows and said, If you study criminal psychology properly, I guarantee that you will be able to learn what I just did without a teacher. Is that so? Qin Guang thought of his disastrous acting skills again, and he was a little shocked. The two returned to the ward, and Wu Tong met with Chen Guoli again. Although Feng Rong had fallen asleep, Chen Guoli was more talkative than Qin Guang. The two chatted as if they regretted not meeting each other earlier, which made Qin Guang's eyelids twitch in fright. When Wu Tong finally left, Chen Guoli's thoughts were exactly the same as Feng Rong's, who was sleeping. Alas, it's really a pity. She's older than you by 5 years, or else it would be nice to marry her. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. If I remember correctly, Dad, you know that I'm Jiang Ye's mistress, right? That day when Sun Xiaoxuan came you also thought it was good. Today Wu Tong came and you can't make her your goddaughter, but you want her to become your daughter-in-law? You should consider your son's physical condition. Right, I have a prescription here. It's the super powerful tonic soup I mentioned last time. You take a look first, and when your mother's body is more stable, I plan to cook it for you. No wonder you're not worried. You're prepared for it. On the other side, Wu Tong happily drove out of the hospital parking lot. Although she still felt that Qin Guang was a little worried, it didn't matter. Wu Tong firmly believed that the guy was not a stingy person, and it would be fine as long as she told him everything. That's right, you can't blame it all on me. You hid such a big thing in your family from me, humph. Qin Guang stayed in the hospital for about half an hour, and he planned to drive back to school. Tomorrow was the official summer vacation for the environmental science class, and the nouveau riche's treating had to be tonight. Before leaving, he glanced at the heavenly holy grail on the cup holder in the car, and for some reason he remembered the feeling of palpitation just now. I hope nothing big happens. Chapter 291. Everyone in the class knew that Qin Guang had gone out to earn a lot of money, but no one knew how much he had earned except for his third grandson and Sun Xiaoshuan's two best friends. Qin Guang didn't need to tell them to keep it a secret. They all knew that Qin Guang didn't want everyone to know. 100 million was still too much for an ordinary university student. If it really got out, it wouldn't take more than half a day for the whole school to be in an uproar. University students were still students. If any of them succeeded in starting a business and earned millions a year, they would be idolized by their peers in the school, not to mention Qin Guang, who had earned nearly 200 million in a few days. No matter how the money came about, the winner takes all. He had done it, and that was his capability. Qin Guang felt that when the time came, no one knew how many juniors would be waiting outside his dorm, or trying to create all kinds of coincidental encounters to get to know him, throwing themselves into his arms one after another. No kidding, 200 million in cash, a pure diamond bachelor, a master of winning by lying down, winning at the starting line of life and struggling for 100 years less. Thinking about that scene, it was simply awesome. To be reasonable, secretly finding a chance to pretend that he had accidentally spilled the beans was not a bad idea. Qin Guang let everyone eat and drink to their heart's content. After all, it was impossible to eat until he became poor. Almost everyone in the class came, even the group of people who had conflicts with him because of Pan Jiang and Wang Ren were here. Only Ren Yuan was missing, but no one cared about him. Qin Guang didn't mind that these people appeared at the table. They came to him humbly, so he didn't need to lower himself to their level and lower his status for no reason. Qin Guang also drank quite a bit. That day when he defeated Xiong'er's third grandson, he didn't drink to his heart's content. He only recovered a little bit of the state he had in the Sea of Moments. Today he was the star of the show, so of course he didn't reject anyone. After 3 rounds of drinking, Qin Guang was getting a little tipsy. He remembered that he needed to top up his phone. Coincidentally, the food stall was right next to Wenxing Town's largest business hall. Hence, Qin Guang greeted everyone before he walked over with a shake of his head. Sun Xiaoshuan hurriedly caught up to him and asked what he was going to do. The rich old master Guang waved his hand. The old man is going to top up his phone. All right, sit down. I'll help you recharge with PayPal. How much do you want to charge? Sun Xiaoshuan pulled him back to sit down again. Qin Guang did not even think about it. Help me top up 1 million yuan. The 7 or 8 people sitting at the table were silent. Even Sun Xiaoshuan and Gao Ye, who knew he was super rich, looked at him as if he was an idiot, let alone the others. Idiot, even if you're drunk, you shouldn't act like this, right? The people at the next table who didn't know each other started to complain first. Usually, at a time like this, there was no need for Qin Guang and the others to say anything. What would happen next was obvious. Immediately, Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi, who drank the least, turned their gazes to where Xiong'er was sitting. *CK. He's already gone. Brother, your behavior is super simple. Xiong'er, the walking firecracker in human form, had already appeared in front of the people at the table. His desire to fight was 10 times stronger than that of a fighting race. Can you King say one more word? Do you believe I won't beat you to death? Xiong'er's breath reeked of alcohol. His face was red as he stood by the table, panting with rage. He waved his fists as he spoke, already in a pre-battle state. He was a big guy with a thick back and a bear's waist. Coupled with his half-drunk image, he was overbearing and had the ability to magnify aggro. He was the perfect choice for a main tank to pull aggro. The people in front of him were also tough. Faced with Xiong'er's provocation, they didn't back down at all. They slammed the table and stood up. What, you want to fight? I don't want to fight. I want to fight. Mother Curse, you started the fight first and now you're King arrogant? As Bramble spoke, he lifted his foot and flipped the table of these people. The sparse barbecue and beer bottles scattered all over the floor. The faces of the 4 people darkened, and one of them took a step back with a bad temper. He reached behind his back and unexpectedly pulled out a dagger with a swish. Idiot student, can't you see what's going on? Brother Scar and Eyeglasses Wu are in their cells. I, your brother, have the final say in Wenxing Town. The person said and really did pull out a dagger to slash at Xiong'er's arm. Xiong'er was already a bit drunk. His reaction was a beat slower. He wanted to retreat, but it was already too late. The dagger was about to slash at his hand. A black shadow suddenly jumped out from beside him, grabbed the person's wrist and twisted it. The person screamed and the dagger fell out of his hand. The black shadow caught the dagger with his other hand and slashed at the guy's thigh, drawing a finger-long wound as deep as a fingernail. In an instant, the brother who was acting cool just a moment ago, screamed and held his thigh as he shrank back. This black shadow was none other than Qin Guang. Qin Guang pushed Xiong back with his right hand. You go back first. Qin Guang didn't seem to use much force, but he pushed the tall and strong Xiong back. *CK. Fine. The other three saw their boss was slashed and they were about to jump up with a weird scream. Qin Guang kicked the ground with the tip of his foot and a chair flew up. He grabbed the chair with his right hand in midair and slammed it down on the head of the second person who jumped at him. With a loud bang, wood splinters flew everywhere, and the wooden chair was broken into pieces. In an instant, another person fell. From the time Qin Guang made his move to injuring two people, it only took 5 seconds. Everyone was dumbfounded for a moment. On the other side, the 20 or so boys in the environmental engineering class gathered around him. No matter what happened, since they were fighting, they had to stand together. The 4 people were suddenly surrounded and they began to panic. The other 2 who didn't have time to make a move didn't dare to move. Yo, don't mess around. You're just students, think carefully. On the towns? The person whose thigh was slashed by Qin Guang covered the wound with his hand and said hurriedly. But before he finished, Qin Guang put the dagger in front of his nose. I know what you want to say. You're some kind of gang leader, right? Who the *CK are you? Why don't you ask around and find out how Brother Scar and Glasses Wu got into the cell you were talking about? To tell you the truth, I single-handedly took down more than a dozen of them at the streetlight in front of us. I was the one who called the police. When the police came, they saw the police as their savior, you understand. Chapter 292. Although he felt that Qin Guang was spouting nonsense, the man who had his leg cut looked at Qin Guang's murderous gaze, the bloody dagger in front of his nose, and especially the murderous aura coming from Qin Guang. He had no choice but to believe it. It wasn't that Qin Guang was trying to scare him. Just as he said when he first boarded the ship in the Sea of Transient, he was just a servant. If he dared to hide at the back when fighting, he would get his neck chopped off by his own people first. At first he was also afraid. If he didn't drink some wine to boost his courage, how would he be able to charge forward? Before boarding the ship, he would drink from time to time and then rush forward with his machete. Relying on his ability to revive, he risked his life. Otherwise, how could he have become the second officer of the Annie in just half a year? Today he drank some wine and got a little tipsy. The other party actually pulled out a knife without saying a word. If it wasn't for his swift actions, Xiong would probably be lying on the ground bleeding. How could Qin Guang not be angry? It was true that Xiong flipped the table first, but if it wasn't for their rude words earlier, why would Xiong go over? Of course, the so-called right or wrong wasn't important. In the pugilistic world, the most outstanding thing was to help one's kin and not reason. Therefore, Qin Guang didn't hesitate to make a move. At this moment he had a weapon in his hand and he saw blood. If he wasn't careful, he would completely return to the Sea of Transient, and he wanted to smell some blood. With Qin Guang pointing a knife at his nose, this brother completely panicked. He was really afraid that Qin Guang would rush to his head and thrust the knife forward. Wouldn't that stab through his nose and into his brain? Bro, I was wrong. Qin Guang looked at him expressionlessly. Wrong? I don't think you did anything wrong. After all, I hurt you quite badly. How many people do you plan to find for revenge? Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to pull Qin Guang from behind, but because Qin Guang's dagger was too close to Qin Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan was afraid that he would accidentally push Qin Guang's hand forward, so he didn't dare to exert force. Brother, don't be rash. I won't take revenge. He really didn't want to take revenge. I've been injured many times worse than this. Now that I know you've defeated Brother Scar and Eyeglasses Wu, how could I not be happy with you? By the way, I bought this saber for more than 800 yuan. I also have a scabbard here. The workmanship is quite exquisite. Take it as a greeting gift. Let's just forget about this? What if the situation is not good? A decisive coward. No explanation. Once you're scared, don't even think about trying to save face and suffer. I'm a coward to the end. If you don't like it, then come and hit me. As long as they didn't beat him to death. These Jianghu brothers of Wenxing Town had been oppressed by Brother Knife Scar and Glasses Wu for a few years, and they had their own philosophy of life. Now was the chance to train their troops for 1,000 days and use them for a single moment. Qin Guang grinned. It's good that you know what's good for you. This matter was over for the time being. But Qin Guang didn't let them leave immediately. He only asked them to call 120 and wait for the ambulance. He grabbed one of the 2 who could still move and forced him to accompany him to the business office. Watch carefully. Watch how I top up my phone. I said 1 million, so it's 1 million. This time, Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't stop them. He dragged them to the business office, where Qin Guang took out his black card and topped up the phone on the spot. Then he dragged them back. Qin Guang waved his phone. Now do you still think I'm pretending? No. The four of them shook their heads like a rattled drum. Get lost. Qin Guang waved his hand and they ran away in fear. Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't help but say that he was being wasteful. By now, Qin Guang had sobered up quite a bit from the alcohol, so he explained to Sun Xiaoxuan, "Sai, it's hard for me to explain in a few words. My phone bill is tens of thousands a month. Maybe my 1 million will be gone in less than a year." "How is that possible? You have to follow the basic rules even if you want to burn your phone bill," everyone exclaimed. Qin Guang sighed again. "Sai, it's really hard to explain in a few words. Can I tell you that in the time we took to brag over a meal, a certain someone hiding in the cup at the dinner table had already finished talking about an entire episode of a TV series?" "That's right. About half an hour ago, perhaps Lioli was too engrossed in the TV series and accidentally leaked some audio, which made Qin Guang realize a tragic fact. Lioli, this woman, had actually started watching The Big Time halfway through learning about business. Hey, although that was a classic business war film, doing business in real life was different from doing business in the TV series. Moreover, even if The Big Time really had some business methods, that was a TV series that was released in 1992, alright? 24 years had passed since then, alright? The price of pork had increased by 6 times, alright? Could the business methods of the past still be used now?" Qin Guang wouldn't explain it to the others, so they didn't insist on asking him. But after this incident, although the others in the class still didn't know how much money he had, just from the fact that he had recharged 1 million a month, they knew that he had really struck it rich. Quite a few girls in the class looked at Qin Guang in a different light. He was definitely a mobile human ATM. One really couldn't blame the girls for being tacky. Qin Guang's popularity in the class wasn't low to begin with. Although everyone could tell that Sun Xiaoxuan had feelings for him, the two of them weren't really a couple after all. Even if they were married, they could still get a divorce. The two of them hadn't even confirmed their relationship, so what they were doing couldn't even be considered as poaching. It was only natural that everyone who saw it had a share. The one who struck first had the advantage and the one who struck last had to suffer. What happened next wasn't hard to understand. One after another, the girls gathered around Qin Guang. Even Xiong and Bai Nyangzi were pried open. As for Lin Jingwei, he was in charge of restraining Gaoya. Seeing that Qin Guang had become a hot commodity, Sun Xiaoxuan, who had been sitting opposite Qin Guang in a reserved manner, panicked. However, it was already too late for her to move to get a seat. 2 other girls had already sat down on either side of Qin Guang. "Qin Guang, ever since I entered university, I felt that you weren't an ordinary guy. Although I don't know what you've been up to, let's have a drink. I wish you all the best. I've never drunk alcohol before. You have to drink this glass of wine." The girl sitting on the left side of Qin Guang was the first to attack. She raised her glass and moved closer to Qin Guang, pressing her full breasts against him. The 2 mountains in front of her chest clamped Qin Guang's left arm, one on the left and the other on the right. It was like a ham sausage in a hot dog bun. It launched a crazy attack on Qin Guang's rationality and character. Although this girl wasn't as cute as Sun Xiaoxuan, and her appearance couldn't be considered a stunning beauty, about 7 or 8 out of 10, her figure was really not bad. She could be considered a beauty whose back view was a 9 out of 10. Suddenly being attacked, Qin Guang suddenly froze. He thought that money was too scary. If he couldn't resist it even though they had been classmates for 3 years, those unfamiliar senior sisters and junior sisters must be no better. Chapter 293. Ding Wan. Qin Guang has drunk enough today. Don't ask him to drink any more. Looking at how Ding Wan dared to snatch food from the tiger's mouth, Sun Xiaoxuan gnashed his teeth in hatred. At the same time, he inwardly cursed Ding Wan for being so unrestrained to actually make a move on Qin Guang in front of so many people. At the same time, he was envious of Ding Wan's boldness. Why don't I have such thick skin? Hu Qi, the girl sitting on the right of Qin Guang, also didn't want to be outdone. She wrapped her arms around Qin Guang from the other side and said, "I want to drink too. I want to drink too." The crossfire was thick. Qin Guang began to giggle. Although he knew he should push the 2 away to maintain his righteous image, "Please let me enjoy a few more seconds. Feels so good, bang." Sun Xiaoxuan, who was sitting across from Qin Guang, slammed the table. He was furious. Ding Wan and Hu Qi were stunned at first, but they immediately formed a united front. "Class president, what do you mean?" Dingwan still didn't let go of Chen Guang. Hu Qi also pressed down harder and harder. To be asterisk cheese. Sun Xiaoxuan cursed in his heart. Aren't you two a little too much? In the past, when Chen Guang was poor, he said behind his back that people who study while driving sports cars would become useless if they didn't go to class. Now that he's rich, he's trying to get close to us. Isn't that too much? Seeing that Sun Xiaoxuan was about to lose, Gaoya came over. She was much fiercer than the mild-mannered Sun Xiaoxuan. She pointed at the two girls and yelled. In fact, she was already being polite. Gaoya, what nonsense are you talking about? When did we say anything about Chen Guang behind his back? Don't slander us. Besides, we're Chen Guang's classmates. Why can't he drink with us? Haven't we all known each other for 3 years? Are you saying that the class president is in charge of everything? That we can control who we want to be close to? Hu Qi's fighting ability was not for nothing. Unlike Sun Xiaoxuan's elegance, she had changed at least 4 or 5 boyfriends during her 3 years in university. She was very familiar with this kind of jealousy tactic. Dingwan and Hu Qi were about the same. Neither of them were easy to deal with. If they weren't experienced, they wouldn't have the guts to put their ideas into action. Dingwan rolled her eyes. That's right. Hu Qi is right. You think you're so great just because you're the class monitor? Gaoya, forget it. Stop it. Sun Xiaoxuan pulled Gaoya back. He didn't want her to continue talking in front of others. Bah. Don't try to use your status as the class leader to embarrass me. This was not a scholarship, nor was it an outstanding student selection. You can't just give in to everything. If you talk nonsense again, I'll tear your mouths apart. Gaoya did not want to be outdone. Sun Xiaoxuan was so anxious that his face turned red, but he could not stop her. The development of the situation was really unexpected. Chen Guang didn't even have time to react before it became like this. He could only blame the girls for being too strong. In just 10 seconds they had come up with so many tricks. He still hadn't come back to his senses. Truth be told, Chen Guang didn't have any intentions of doing anything with the girls in his class. At this moment he just drank a little too much, and the benefits that came to him came too suddenly, causing him to lose his composure. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was sitting across from him, slammed the table. It looked like he was getting mad at the two girls, but in fact he was trying to scare away Chen Guang's drunkenness. His drunkenness had subsided, and his mind was sober. How could he not know which was more important? All right. Stop talking. It's fate that we're classmates. Let's not get into a fight over such a small matter. I drank a little too much today and my brain short-circuited. I went too far with my jokes. Too far. Chen Guang hurriedly struggled out of Dingwan and Hu Qi's attacks, and then stood next to Sun Xiaoxuan. He didn't know how to deal with the situation, so he could only smile apologetically at Dingwan and Hu Qi. We're classmates, but we can't make jokes like this again. Otherwise, if your boyfriends find out, I'll be in serious trouble. He just said it casually to help himself out. He didn't expect that Dingwan and Hu Qi's expressions would change, and they looked a little embarrassed. Oh my god. You two really have boyfriends? Do your boyfriends know that you two are so cool? Do you think I'll be hacked to death by you guys? I can't take the blame for this. It's just a joke. Don't think that I'm really interested in you. Dingwan quickly waved her hands to disassociate herself, and Hu Qi quickly laughed. After being pointed out by Chen Guang, the others roughly understood what he meant. Especially when Chen Guang sat next to Sun Xiaoxuan, his attitude was even more obvious. Seeing this, the others could only secretly regret missing the opportunity. Of course, just based on looks, temperament and personality, no girl in the class could really challenge Sun Xiaoxuan. Sun Xiaoxuan was happy, but he didn't say it out loud. Gaoya took the opportunity to pull Sun Xiaoxuan aside. You see? He's actually still on your side. Why don't you strike while the iron is hot and talk things out with him? That way there won't be so many vixens who keep thinking about him. Let me tell you, it's easy for a girl to pursue a guy, especially Chen Guang. He hasn't had a girlfriend in his 3 years in university, and I bet he's been thirsty for a long time. If there really is a vixen who doesn't play by the rules and only wants to get on first, you'll regret it in the future. Sun Xiaoxuan looked at Chen Guang, who didn't dare to drink anymore and only ate his barbecue. He hesitated and said, I'm a little scared. What are you scared of? Gaoya had an attitude that said, if you can do it, then do it. If you don't, then you're not a good girl. Although Sun Xiaoxuan was a little tempted, she still said timidly, I'm afraid he'll have scruples and won't say yes. Gaoya pushed her, don't joke around. I don't believe a normal man would say no to you. Go. Ding Wan and Hu Qi, both of whom have boyfriends, are still pestering him. Why are you scared? Sun Xiaoxuan shook her head slightly. I'm different from them. Different? What's different? Gaoya frowned. She didn't quite understand what Sun Xiaoxuan meant. After thinking about it for a while, she suddenly understood. Don't tell me you're still a virgin? Oh my god. Sun Xiaoxuan blushed. What's so surprising about that? Gaoya nodded. That's right. You've never been in a relationship. Sai, this is really troublesome. Men's minds were very strange. If a girl like Ding Wan, who kept changing boyfriends, went to hook up with him, he might happily eat her up as if she was a dish delivered to his doorstep. But if the one who was sent to him was a virgin, he would have all kinds of misgivings in his heart. Let's not talk about those born bad guys, but Qin Guang is definitely not that kind of person. Sun Xiaoxuan nodded. That's what I'm afraid of. Oh, from your tone, you don't seem to be one anymore? Gaoya raised her eyebrows proudly. I just got promoted a few days ago. Lin Jingwei? Of course. Who else could it be? That simple? Gaoya nodded. That's simple. Chapter 294. Did he promise to marry you? Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't help but envy Gaoya. Gaoya shook her head. I haven't thought about the future yet. I might not even be willing to marry him. Alright, let's not think about it anymore. Today is a rare opportunity and we'll have to go home soon. We'll have to wait for 2 months to see each other again. If you don't make things clear now, I'm guessing he'll get us a sister-in-law that we won't even know after the summer vacation. Gaoya continued, by the way, don't tell him about being a virgin yet. You can test his attitude first. If he really cares, I have a very ruthless way. What? Gaoya's face turned fierce, her eyes glinting. You ruined the cucumber first. Don't lie to him that you're not a virgin anymore. Wait until he's satisfied, then find a chance to make things clear. If you're afraid he'll be unhappy, keep him in the dark. To tell you the truth, I've never had that thing. When I was a kid, I rode a bicycle and lost it. I was afraid that Lin Jingwei wouldn't believe me, but it turns out he doesn't care at all. This. Sun Xiaoxuan gasped. Gaoya's plan was so cunning. Go. Be brave and pursue your happiness. Don't be afraid of failure. Failure is the mother of success. Think about how pitiful and persistent the boys who wrote you love letters were. Borrow some of their perseverance and courage for yourself. Gaoya pushed Sun Xiaoxuan, pushing her back again. Sun Xiaoxuan blushed and slowly moved towards Qin Guang. She was very concerned about what Gaoya had said. She was going back to Wuming City for the summer vacation and wouldn't be by his side for as long as 2 months. She couldn't predict what would happen during those 2 months. She was afraid that he would be seduced by someone else. In the past, Sun Xiaoxuan wouldn't have been so worried. But recently, Qin Guang seemed to have a lot of luck with women. Not to mention his nemesis Wenwen, teacher Zhua, the lady who accompanied him to Xiangjiang, and the beautiful officer Wu who acted strangely at the hotel that night. No matter who it was, they were all terrible potential competitors. Finally, Sun Xiaoxuan stood behind Qin Guang. Lin Jingwei, who was chatting with Qin Guang, was the first to notice Sun Xiaoxuan's ghost-like figure. He turned around to see Sun Xiaoxuan's flushed face under the night light, then looked at Yiya, who was winking at him from afar. Lin Jingwei poked Qin Guang's waist, signaling him to turn around. Qin Guang sat on the stool and turned his head. He still didn't know that something good was about to happen. He only tore off a large piece of roasted and fragrant pork tenderloin from the barbecue skewer and said with a smile, "Class monitor son, why aren't you coming over to eat something? The vegetarian dishes that you girls love to eat are almost all gone." Qin Guang, you, come here for a moment. Sun Xiaoxuan's voice was as low as a mosquito's. She used her fingers to pinch the shoulder of Qin Guang's t-shirt and pulled him up. Strange, Qin Guang muttered in his heart. He picked up his cup and followed Sun Xiaoxuan to a corner of the food stall. He drank tea as he walked. The barbecue tasted a little salty today and his mouth was dry. Looking at Sun Xiaoxuan's back as she carefully walked in front of him, it seemed that she was so nervous that her legs were trembling. Qin Guang couldn't help but think, what on earth does she want? He pondered in his heart, is she going to confess to me directly? This doesn't feel right. It's not that I'm not mentally prepared, but shouldn't we guys take the initiative to talk to girls about this kind of thing? Class monitor son, you're undoubtedly the prettiest girl in our class, and the undisputed #1 beauty in our academy. How could the old man? Damn, this sentence sounds familiar. I don't know where I've heard it so many times. Forget it, if she really has this intention as a man, I can't let a woman suffer too much. Why don't I just say it first? Just as Qin Guang was letting his imagination run wild, an emotionless mechanical and electronic voice suddenly rang out in his head. It sounded like Lioli. It was just like the mission description of the heavenly holy grail that he heard in the racing god training field, which had shrunk the most. It was enunciated word by word like the voice of a Google girl, but it was spoken clearly. This voice came so abruptly. Although it wasn't loud, the content was deafening. In just a moment he broke out in a cold sweat. He wasn't prepared at all, and there were no signs in advance. No, maybe that throbbing feeling in the hospital in the afternoon could be considered a sign. The punishment realm had arrived. Countdown to the activation of the punishment realm. 10, 9. F***CK. She's even playing a countdown. Is she forcing a sense of urgency? Qin Guang looked down at the cup in his hand and secretly clenched his teeth. Damn it. Come on. I'm not afraid of you. Anyway, I'm King Savior, I won't die. Qin Guang stood still and concentrated, waiting for the heavenly holy grail to suck him into the realm of the cup. Unlike in the past, this time he was notified in advance. Perhaps he would face the punishment of the power of fate as soon as he entered. Although he didn't know what kind of enemy he would encounter, it was always good to be prepared in advance. 4, 3. In front of him, Sun Xiaoxuan quietly looked back and found that Qin Guang was standing behind him. She gathered her courage and said, "Come on, what are you doing standing there?" Qin Guang didn't answer her because the countdown had reached the last second. 1, 0. The punishment realm. Activate. Qin Guang's right hand squeezed the cup so hard that his knuckles turned white. His left hand clenched into a fist, and the expression on his face suddenly became a little ferocious. He slightly bowed and made a posture of being ready for battle. Having no time to answer Sun Xiaoxuan, he slowly closed his eyes and waited to be sucked in. After a long time, about 30 seconds, when his tense muscles began to ache, there was still no movement. What's going on? Why haven't I been pulled in yet? Qin Guang opened his eyes slightly and looked at his current posture. It was a little too awkward. He was squatting in a horse stance with a painful expression on his face. His muscles were tight and even the veins on his arms were bulging. 2 drops of sweat slowly rolled down from the edge of his temples. A cold wind blew past and his temples felt cold. That wasn't all. With his strange posture and ferocious expression, many people focused their attention on him. Sun Xiaoxuan walked back in a panic. Qin Guang, what's wrong? Is there anything wrong with your stomach? Wait, this is an illusion, right? I must have been pulled into the realm of the cup. This is an illusion, right? Do you have to make it real? I'm used to seeing mosaic scenery, and you actually made an illusion that is more real than a holographic projection. The investment is too big. No wonder it's the punishment realm derived from the realm of fate. That's how awesome it is. Look at Sun Xiaoxuan in front of me. Her expression is so vivid, and her skin is so delicate. Compared to the previous realm of the cup, this is simply a work of conscience. It's too real. Even the worried look in her eyes is so real. 666666. I really can't let my guard down. Qin Guang decided to continue tensing his nerves and muscles, ready to explode at any time. This Sun Xiaoxuan in front of me is definitely the first enemy I have to face. Humph, you want to use my care for her to deceive me? Then, with a whoosh, he would transform into a monster and swallow me? Dream on. I'm a veteran, okay? Chapter 295. If you're not feeling well, go back and sit down first. We'll pay the bill and go to the hospital right away. I'll hold the cup for you. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was standing in front of Qin Guang, spoke again. Cup. Qin Guang slowly turned his head stiffly and looked at the cup in his hand. Then the question was, if I was dragged into the world within a cup, why is this King cup still in my hand? Cup within a cup? Double illusion? Don't be too awesome, okay? That's completely unreasonable, right? Idiot, you weren't sucked into the cup. Why are you still standing there? Lioli spoke in his mind. This time it was really Lioli's voice. That kind of domineering, cool, and arrogant tone with a hint of contempt for mortals could not be imitated by anyone. What a scam. I'm really still in the real world. King created such a domineering countdown of 10 seconds, but in the end, nothing happened. At this moment, Qin Guang felt like he was the person in charge of a space center. The whole country was watching the countdown of the satellite launch live on TV, but when the countdown ended and the satellite took off, there was no movement at all. It was so embarrassing to find out that the fuel had been forgotten. Brother Guang, are you constipated? Bai Nyangzi's vicious ridicule came at the right time, because Qin Guang's horse stance in front of everyone was too funny. It was so embarrassing and he really wanted to strangle someone to save his face. What should he do in this situation? I'm waiting online, it's urgent. At this moment, Qin Guang even felt like vomiting blood, especially Sun Xiaoxuan, who held onto Qin Guang's shoulder worriedly and asked, "Is your stomach really uncomfortable? How about I go to the pharmacy over there and buy some laxatives?" Sun Xiaoxuan had completely forgotten about the confession. Qin Guang slowly stood up in extreme embarrassment, held his waist and shook his head. "I'm fine, I'm just a little uncomfortable. I'll be fine after sitting down." At this moment, a uniformed police officer suddenly walked in from outside the food stall. He looked a little anxious. "Everyone, leave the room as soon as possible. Immediately. Immediately." This officer had saved Qin Guang's life. The moment he appeared, everyone's attention was on him. Qin Guang also turned to look at him. He had a vague impression of him. He seemed to have seen him before when Wu Tong brought him to the Wenxing police station. This person also remembered Qin Guang and strode over. At first he seemed to want to say something, but after thinking for a while he only said, "Brothers, you guys should leave quickly. Don't wander outside now. We have to make sure that there is no one on the street in 10 minutes. "What's wrong?" Qin Guang asked. "I can't tell you, I don't want to cause panic. Anyway, I just want to pack up quickly. Really, I'm not joking with you. I have to warn the others. Boss, you have 5 minutes. If there are still any customers sitting outside when I come back in 5 minutes, I will arrest them." After saying that, the police officer left and jogged to another hot pot restaurant across the street. Everyone looked at other places on the street. Indeed, on the same street there were many police officers going around notifying people, and people were already leaving the street in a panic. What's going on? Qin Guang's mind was a mess. He subconsciously thought that this might have something to do with the punishment realm. At that moment, an electronic voice sounded in his mind again. "Punishment realm mission announcement. Save sister in danger." What? Does that mean that the punishment realm this time is not a mission in the cup, but directly happening in the real world? In just a few seconds, there were fewer and fewer people on the street. Some people even took advantage of the situation and rushed into the internet cafe. The strong sense of danger was getting stronger and stronger. Qin Guang's mind was still a mess. He didn't understand why the punishment realm was not in the cup, but in the real world. But he knew that the Holy Grail was not joking. He counted out 1,000 yuan from his wallet and threw it to the stall owner. Then he turned to Sun Xiaoxuan and said, "I don't know what's going on, but it seems like it's too late to go back to school. The police wouldn't make such a big joke for no reason. Everyone go to the internet cafe and leave the street first." The two returned to the table of the class. Everyone was discussing what the police was trying to say. They couldn't make up their minds. Qin Guang took a deep breath. "Everyone go to the internet cafe now. I'll pay for all the internet fees tonight. If we can't leave, we'll play all night in the internet cafe. Don't worry about what's going on. Just listen to the police. Hurry up, we won't get a chance if we're late." It turned out that the last sentence he said was useful. After exams it was time to play games and relax. The 30 or so people in the class teamed up to play games. It was a spectacular and fun scene. Regardless of gender, everyone rushed to the internet cafe. Walking at the back of the crowd, Qin Guang's mind was still confused. "Sister? Don't joke around. I'm an only child. No, I only have a sister who died 3 months ago. Also, why would the realm of punishment of the heavenly Holy Grail appear in the real world? This doesn't make sense. Okay. Could it be that the realm in the cup is the real world? That's ridiculous. I don't exist alone in the real world. I'm standing on Earth. Earth is so big. There are so many people on Earth. It's fine if it's just Earth. Outside of Earth is the endless universe. There's no boundary between the two. Strictly speaking, Earth and any stardust in any corner of the universe are considered to exist in the same space. You're telling me this is your realm in the cup? The endless universe is your realm in the cup? Are you King kidding me? This isn't the sea of moments where you can see your brother's hand. Forget it. I can't care so much. The most important thing now is to figure out what the realm of punishment is." As he walked up the stairs, Qin Guang went through the entire process of the realm of punishment appearing in his mind. First, the heavenly Holy Grail suddenly told him that the realm of punishment had been activated. However, he wasn't pulled into the realm in the cup. Instead, he was acting cute. Then, the police officer from the Wenxing town branch appeared. He only asked everyone to leave the streets as soon as possible. He didn't say what happened. Then, the heavenly Holy Grail immediately notified the mission target of the realm of punishment. It was as if the police officer's notification had triggered some condition. Damn it. What's the connection between the two? No, could it be that the heavenly Holy Grail's sister is Wu Tong? I'm not related to her by blood. I just acknowledged it verbally. She's in danger? What's this? The strongest person in history? I don't believe it. Something big must have happened outside. Otherwise, with the usual style of the Chinese police, stability is more important than anything else. If the situation wasn't so serious that it couldn't be any worse, it would be impossible for such a martial law to happen. Even if the current emperor were to go on patrol, it wouldn't be possible. Even if the emperor were to go on patrol, he would at least start sealing the roads 5 to 6 hours in advance. The more Qin thought about it, the more confused he became and the more uneasy he felt. Lioli, come out right now. What's going on? Damn Lioli. She dropped the ball at the crucial moment and pretended to be offline. After saying that he wasn't pulled into the realm in the cup, she didn't do anything. She didn't even come out to explain it to him. After waiting for a few seconds, Lioli still didn't say anything. Don't King joke with me? What's going on? Qin Guang didn't know where he got the courage from. Perhaps the uneasiness in his heart was too strong. He actually roared in his mind. Chapter 296. Azure finally agreed reluctantly. It's nothing important. I think you should just go to the internet cafe and play a few games of Dota. After a few hours, the punishment realm will naturally pass. I don't have to do anything? I can pass the punishment realm just lying down? Qin Guang raised his eyebrows and said to Azure in his mind. Lioli continued, strictly speaking that's the case and I hope so too. Actually, I didn't think that the life realm would be so big. Things are getting a little out of control, so I suggest you pretend that you don't know anything. There won't be any punishment for failing the mission? I won't die? Azure said with even more certainty, there won't be any punishment for you. Just play the game in peace and don't worry about this. After all, even if you complete this mission, there doesn't seem to be any benefits. This Empress really doesn't suggest you get involved. The more casual Lu Li sounded, the less confident Qin Guang felt in his heart. He had already guessed that something would happen. Now that Azure said this, how could he agree with it? What's going on? Don't King play dumb with me? Azure disappeared. There was no movement. She had completely disappeared. Picking up the cup, Qin Guang wanted to throw it out, but he held back in the end. Forget it. This woman is unreliable. I'll ask her myself. Qin Guang pushed Sun Xiaoxuan and the others into the internet cafe and turned to walk outside. Sun Xiaoxuan, you guys go in first. I'll go ask what's going on. Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to follow him out in a hurry. Her woman's intuition told her that she couldn't let Qin Guang go just like that. Qin Guang swung his hand, not letting Sun Xiaoxuan grab him. He said anxiously, go in. Didn't you hear what the police said? You're the class monitor. You have to look after the whole class. Don't let anything happen to them. But you can't leave. I have to look after you too. Sun Xiaoxuan said loudly. Qin Guang shook his head. I can't explain it to you, but I really have something important to ask. Don't worry about me, I am not an ordinary person. After saying that, he was afraid that Sun Xiaoxuan would be worried that he would run out again, so he steeled his heart and moved closer to her. He put his arms around her shoulders and whispered in her ear, be good and listen to me. Don't make trouble for me. Quickly go inside. I'll be fine. Promise me that none of you will leave the internet cafe before I call you, okay? As he spoke, Qin Guang pushed Sun Xiaoxuan into the internet cafe and pulled the manager over. Qin Guang and Wenwen had beaten up countless people in front of this internet cafe. He was a famous person and the employee recognized him at a glance. Brother, what's the matter? Qin Guang took out 2,000 yuan from his pocket and threw it to the internet cafe manager. This is all the cash I have. These are all my classmates. I'll pay for everyone's internet fees. If it's not enough, I'll transfer the money to you. Now lock the door. Don't do any other business today. The internet cafe manager didn't want to agree. Brother, this isn't good. Qin Guang glared at him. Do you believe that I'll bring my boss to tear down your internet cafe? Of course, the internet cafe manager knew that the boss he was talking about was the super strong female T-Rex. He groaned in his heart, lowered his head and locked the door firmly. Okay. You have the bigger fist, so you have the final say. Qin Guang said goodbye to Sun Xiaoxuan, Lin Jingwei and the others who were looking at him through the fence and turned to leave. No one could do anything about him. Although they felt that it was not right for him to go out alone, they couldn't stop him. He had just taken 2 steps when 2 crisp popping sounds came from a distance about 2 miles away. It was very abrupt. It sounded like firecrackers but brighter. Qin Guang frowned. It's not a festival today. There's no reason for people to set off firecrackers at 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. Just as he was thinking about this, the police officers who were doing the last bit of security down there trembled and gathered together. Qin Guang's heart skipped a beat. Was that a gunshot? Sun Xiaoxuan, who was behind the fence of the internet cafe, asked loudly, Qin Guang, what was that sound? Qin Guang smiled and waved his hand indifferently. I just saw someone set off fireworks over there. It's pretty, but it's not a problem. You guys go in first. I'll go down and ask the police what's going on. If there's nothing else, I'll come back up. But no matter what, none of you are allowed to come out. Do you hear me? With that, Qin Guang planned to run down the stairs and rush toward the group of police officers. He had just taken a step when the electronic voice of the heavenly Holy Grail suddenly popped up in his head. It almost made Qin Guang trip and roll down the stairs. Mission description. If the mission fails or the mission is abandoned, then the sister dies and the savior loses nothing. Then there was no more. Qin Guang held onto the stairs and waited for a while. In the end, the heavenly Holy Grail really was a man of few words. Qin Guang fiercely hammered the cup in his bag as he hurriedly walked down to the police officers who were planning to leave. What the F***ck? Not only did this prompt not contain any substantial information, but it also made his balls hurt even more. No matter what, there was only one thing for sure, and that was that someone would really die. If the heavenly Holy Grail said that someone would die, then it definitely wouldn't be a joke. The words spoken by this emotionless mechanical voice made it hard to believe even if one didn't want to. There was a high chance that it was a gunshot, and the police officers were solemnly waiting downstairs. It must be something big. At this moment, Qin Guang already understood that the person involved in this punishment realm was indeed Wu Tong. Moreover, if it wasn't handled well, Wu Tong would really die. So this was the meaning of the saying, you will lose as much as you gain? If one manipulated fate, one would receive a backlash from fate. If one defied fate and forcefully saved a family member's life, then the price would be losing another family member's life. This was the punishment of the realm of life. But why was it Wu Tong? Qin Guang thought to himself. She wasn't my sister at all. She was just casually claiming to be my sister. No. Qin Guang recalled the foreboding of his heart palpitations in the afternoon. At that time he seemed to have gone along with Wu Tong's words and agreed that she was his sister? Previously, Azure had said that the punishment realm could descend at any time. This meant that it had already been prepared, like a sword of Damocles hanging above his head. Once he did something to trigger the opportunity, it would ruthlessly slash down. She was implicated by him. Motherf asterisk her. B asterisk starred. D asterisk eminent. What should I do? According to the usual behavior of the realm within a cup, it couldn't possibly not give me a chance to succeed at all, right? The prompt just now said that Wu Tong would only die if the mission failed or if she gave up on the mission. Then what if the mission succeeded? She definitely wouldn't have to die. Wait a minute. You guys wait a minute. Qin Guang's mind was in a mess, but he didn't slow down. He caught up with the group of police officers who were planning to leave and shouted from behind. He had to get to the bottom of the matter. Chapter 297. Several police officers were suddenly stopped. They were a little unhappy at first. After all, their time was very tight. But when they looked back and found that it was Qin Guang, especially when 3 of them knew Qin Guang, things became easier. Brother-in-law, what's the matter? The policeman who had greeted Qin Guang at the food stall turned around and answered Qin Guang's words. He said to the others, you guys go first. I'll run to catch up. Just now in front of Qin Guang he was still restrained. Now that there was no outsider, it was easy to call him brother-in-law. Qin Guang was too lazy to argue with him about the title. He just asked in a hurry, buddy, I think it's a big deal. Can you tell me what happened? As he spoke, Qin Guang pointed in the direction where he heard the sound of gunshots just now. The man's face changed at first. He hesitated and didn't want to say it, but in the end the identity of Qin Guang's brother-in-law prevailed. He swallowed his saliva and said, I'll tell you about it, brother-in-law. Please don't disclose it again. It's also because Captain Wu just rushed over there. Otherwise I definitely wouldn't tell you. It's really troublesome. Qin Guang said anxiously, what's wrong? Is it really a gunshot? The man said fiercely, I haven't received any notice from the bureau, but I think it's very likely to be a gunshot. Something happened at the airport about half an hour ago. He pointed in the direction of the airport. Chen Guang knew that Shuangyue County, where Wenxing Town was located, was also the location of Wujing City Airport. The airport was about 5 or 6 kilometers northwest of Wenxing Town. What happened? The internationally wanted criminal was recognized when he landed at the airport. Originally, he was to be arrested on the spot and even executed by shooting. Unexpectedly, there was someone outside the airport who helped them break through the blockade. And then? At this moment, Qin Guang had a bad premonition in his heart. At that time, there was a heavy exchange of fire at the airport. One of them was killed and one of our own was killed. There are about a dozen criminals left in 2 cars. One escaped to the west, and the other is heading towards Wenxing Town. I wasn't sure about the ones heading west, but the ones heading our way were blocked by the SWAT team that reacted in time. They temporarily retreated to the number 5 steel works over there and are now trapped. Damn, this group of grandsons are all crazy. Their firepower is even fiercer than our special police, and their marksmanship is also very accurate. No one dares to go up. Currently, the military was still in the process of coordinating, and they might directly consider transferring military helicopters over. They are quite well trained, so they must be here to do something big. Fortunately, we discovered them first, or God knows how big of a mess they would have made. Qin Guang knew that the old Wusan Steel Works that this guy was talking about was called Wujing City 3rd Steel Rolling Mill. It had been prosperous for a period of time in the early years. It was quite large and had thousands of employees. But later, because of the overall concentration of resources in the national steel industry, the high transportation costs, and because of backward technology and other reasons, this large state-owned steel rolling mill that was built in a non-mining area slowly declined. A few years ago, it went bankrupt and was liquidated, leaving only a large abandoned factory to raise a flock of crows as a memorial to its former glory. When he was a freshman, the whole class of environmental sciences went there together, and had a special barbecue spring outing in the old factory. Chen Guang began to imagine the scene of several vicious criminals using the abandoned factory as a stronghold to deal with the police. It had to be said that the abandoned steel factory with a solid structure, good ventilation, and large windows everywhere, but only 2 stairs up and down were quite suitable for those desperados to stubbornly resist. When he thought that Wu Tong was also there, he became more and more panicked and hurriedly said, "Then you just said that Wu Tong also went there. Criminals with firepower even fiercer than the SWAT team shouldn't be something that patrol officers like you can get involved in, right? What is she doing there? Can you call her back?" He didn't expect this guy to become calm. "As expected of my brother-in-law, you really care about our Wu team. Don't worry, the innermost layer of the encirclement is the work of the SWAT team. None of the local police officers who don't have weapons can go there. Someone like me who has the establishment but is famous for being fat and having low professional ability, was sent to guard the nearby streets with a few of my brothers to prevent trouble before it happens. Only the Wu team and a dozen other elites from our bureau were called over. Their main task is not to exchange fire with the other party, but to form the second layer of encirclement. They are basically useless just to make up the numbers." "Really?" Qin Guang's heart slightly relaxed. The guy nodded again. "Of course, why would I lie to you? In another 10 minutes the troops will arrive and it will cause a lot of noise. Also, those international criminals are really amazing, and they are very famous internationally. I heard that one of them is a renegade instructor of some kind of special force. Us small police officers are really no match for them, so it's not worth losing our lives." "They don't have hostages?" Qin Guang asked again. The guy saw that his colleagues were already far away, so he waved his hand and said, "No, the airport reacted quickly and didn't give them a chance. I don't have much time today, so I won't talk to you anymore. I'll be leaving first. Next time you and Wu team have a wedding, remember to call me." After he finished speaking, he dragged his half-fat body and ran forward like a wisp of smoke. Although he said that he was a weakling, in fact he was a fatty with nimble movements. On the other side, when Qin Guang heard that Wu Tong didn't have to directly go to the front line to exchange fire with the other party, he felt slightly relieved, but then he thought that something was wrong. Since Wu Tong didn't have to go close, why did the Heavenly Holy Grail's notification say that Wu Tong would die if the mission failed? Just as he was thinking about this, the Heavenly Holy Grail's electronic voice sounded again. Mission description added. Mission target Sister's fate has been successfully changed, she is in danger, and has entered the stage of defying fate. If the Savior doesn't take any action, Sister will definitely die. F***CK. I knew it wasn't that simple. Qin Guang was so angry that he stomped his feet. Although he didn't know what happened to Wu Tong, it definitely wasn't something good. Forget it, let's go to that broken factory first. Thus, Qin Guang immediately made his way to the third steel mill. Fortunately, he and his roommates would often take a stroll around Wenxing Town on their bicycles. Occasionally, they'd go to the neighboring White Town to have some White Town pig intestine noodles. Although they couldn't be considered as having a thorough understanding of Wenxing Town's surroundings, they definitely knew more than half of it. He plunged into the forest by the side of the road, knowing that there was a dirt road that led to the steel mill more than 2 miles away. Idiot. I suggest you don't go. Seeing that he had made up his mind, Lioli, who had been pretending to disappear, couldn't hold it in anymore. Qin Guang shook his head. How can I not go? The mission description said that if I don't go, she will definitely die. In other words, no matter what the power of fate does, how it punishes me, how it controls Wu Tong's fate, only I can save her. Right? Don't lie to me. Absolutely. You can't lie to me. Lioli was silent for a few seconds, which was rare, before she said faintly, That's true. Things started because of you. You plucked the string of fate and saved your mother's life, so there must be a relative of yours in danger. Chapter 298. But she's not my biological sister. Qin Guang said in a low voice as he ran. Shrugging her shoulders in Qin Guang's heart, Lioli continued, Even if that's the case, the punishment realm wouldn't have looked for Wu Tong, and there's a higher chance for it to happen to your father. But coincidentally, she met your father today and chatted with him for a long time, which caused them to be tainted by karma. Regardless of your family or yourself, everyone has acknowledged her as your sister. Even if she's just a god sister and not a biological sister, she can't get away from this karma. In addition, I speculate that it might be because she's engaged in a high-risk business, so the Bell of Destiny looked for her to save some energy. All living beings in this world are controlled by fate. No matter what her original fate is, since she's targeted by the realm of destiny, her fate is to meet with an unexpected calamity today. Even if she doesn't die in the hands of that wanted criminal, she'll definitely die before midnight tonight. Maybe she gets electrocuted, maybe she gets in a car accident, or even the chandelier above her head falls while she's sleeping on the bed. Of course, I don't think she can survive this calamity. Qin Guang was furious. F***CK. How the F***CK can I save her? Isn't she destined to fail the mission from the beginning? Lioli sighed again. I really don't want to tell you. After all, the realm in cup is related to your real world. It's not in the heavenly Holy Grail. If something unexpected happens, I might not be able to protect you with my current strength. You should know that this is not the realm in the cup. You don't have an immortal body, and you don't have a chance to resurrect with full health. Qin Guang's breath stagnated and he stopped walking. No matter whether I'm in the real world or not, isn't it still considered the realm in cup? This is the realm in cup, but it's also your real world. The realm of destiny is different from the ordinary realm in cup. Your real world is even more different. When the two are entangled, it's already beyond my control. I can't protect you and the heavenly Holy Grail can't protect you. That's why I'm determined not to let you go. Women, there are plenty of fish in the sea. It's fine if one dies, but where can't we find beautiful women? Really, you should go back and pretend that you don't know anything. Have a good sleep. After tomorrow you will still be Qin Guang. You can continue to live your life. Just treat Wu Tong as someone who has never appeared in your life. Maybe you can even thank her for saving your father's life. Isn't that great? What kind of joke is this? How the hell am I supposed to do that? Qin Guang finally couldn't hold back and roared. He ran forward again. I was the one who implicated him in this mess. Now that he's going to die, you want me to stand by and watch? I'm the master of the heavenly Holy Grail. Just now, I mentioned the fate reversal stage. Does that mean that I, the master of the Holy Grail, can forcefully reverse fate? Only I can save her, right? This time, Lioli finally stopped playing dumb. Indeed, the only one who can break the game is you. Karma moves because of you, and it can only be restored because of you. After the realm of fate and your real world fuse together, the two powers intertwined. Your entire world is filled with the power of the realm of fate. No one can escape or go against it. Although this power isn't strong and can't even be sensed, the so-called fate only needs to borrow power. It's just like the theory of the butterfly effect in your world. However, as the master of the Holy Grail, you hold the heavenly Holy Grail. You're not in the 9 realms. With the power of the heavenly Holy Grail supporting you, you're completely different from others. I can borrow the power of fate in the realm of fate, but I can't reverse it. Only you, Qin Guang, can go against fate with your own power. You can reverse fate and save Wu Tong's life. This is also the punishment of the realm of fate. If you want to escape punishment, you can only defeat the power of fate that wants to take Wu Tong's life. You must do it. Listening to Liuli talk about the mysteries of the entire punishment realm, Qin Guang only felt endless shock. He raised his head to look at the vast starry sky, feeling that it was inconceivable. He stretched out his hand slightly, as if he could feel an invisible power on his fingertips. You can feel it, right? This is the power of the heavenly Holy Grail. When the punishment realm was activated, it had already enveloped your entire universe. In other places, it's so thin that it can be completely ignored. It's only slightly dense around you, so only you can reverse fate. But I really don't want you to go because you might really die. If you die, everything will be over. After saying that, Liuli paused. I'm not joking with you, really? I will die. Qin Guang's running footsteps stopped again. He was only a mile away from the steel mill. He could faintly see the figures of the police patrolling in front of him. At this moment, these people seemed to be in a bit of a panic. They weren't in their normal state of waiting for a hare to come to them. Something really happened. But what should I do? Qin Guang lowered his head to look at his body. He had a sports bag with the heavenly Holy Grail inside. He touched his trouser pocket. That's right, there was also a sharp dagger that he snatched from that hooligan. Other than that, there was nothing else. Those heavily armed police and special forces couldn't do anything. Although he had rich experience in killing with cold weapons in the Sea of Transient and could be considered a cold-blooded executioner, he hadn't even killed a chicken in the real world. He was just a bit more ruthless when fighting. How could he be compared to those terrifying international fugitives? Of course not. Bang, bang. Gunshots rang out again and there was another short exchange of gunfire. Listening to the ear-piercing gunshots and the slightly panicked noises of the police in front of him, something happened. If I turn a blind eye and do nothing, she will definitely die. Those police and special forces in front of him, as well as the incoming special forces and armed helicopters, are all useless. No one can save her. Perhaps these fugitives will die without a burial place, but Wu Tong's life is destined to be lost. The only one who can save her is me. Qin Guang really wanted to tell himself loudly that if anything really happened to Wu Tong, it was all his fault. If he were to back down today, he would have to live in regret for the rest of his life. He understood the logic, but he couldn't take a step forward. Especially when Liuli kept repeating that sentence in his ear, it was like a death warrant that was destroying his will. You can't go. You will die. You will really die. 10 minutes before the incident happened, Wu Tong was driving alone in the town for her routine patrol. She even saw Qin Guang and his gang eating and drinking at a food stall. However, she was working and there were quite a lot of people there, so she didn't get out of the car to greet Qin Guang. She only planned to give him a call after she was done with her patrol today and tell him that she saw him being corrupt outside today. She wanted him to treat her to a meal later. This guy seems to be living quite comfortably. Chapter 299. After complaining about Qin Guang's corruption, she had received an order to drive there. On the way, Chief Ding had repeatedly reminded her that she, as the branch captain of the branch, could only guard the perimeter with other colleagues, and that she should never be greedy for credit. The criminals inside were extremely vicious, and ordinary police officers couldn't deal with them. Although Wu Tong was tough, she understood. About 3 minutes ago, Wu Tong had driven the police car to the front, followed by 2 other police cars from the Wenxing branch. In front of her was the second perimeter formed by the police, and about 200 meters ahead were dozens of SWAT officers hiding behind various bunkers. Less than 20 meters ahead of the bunkers was the abandoned 2-story factory building. Seeing that they were getting closer to the second perimeter, Wu Tong started to get nervous. She let go of the accelerator to step on the brake, and her right hand was already on the gun at her waist. However, her car didn't slow down. When she stepped on the brake, it felt like she was stepping on air and there was no feedback force at all. The brake was broken. Seeing that the colleagues in front of the second perimeter were getting closer and closer, Wu Tong couldn't control the car at all. She could only stick her head out of the window and shout, excuse me, this broken car's brake is broken." The colleagues in front of the perimeter were all dumbfounded. At such a critical moment, you said your brake was broken. Helpless, the colleagues in the second perimeter could only jump to the side, barely dodging the car. Wu Tong's police car crossed the second perimeter and headed in the direction of the SWAT officers. The brake was completely broken, and the car was at least 60 kilometers per hour. Wu Tong's head was about to explode and she twisted the steering wheel hard. Then her body tilted and her head hit the B-pillar. When she came back to her senses, she was in a daze. What? The entire steering wheel fell off. Wu Tong stared blankly at the steering wheel in her hands, and the steering wheel that was supposed to be connected to it was now only supported by a section of steel pipe. She felt like she was about to collapse. If she had known earlier, the broken car that was bought in the police station in the 90s should have been replaced a long time ago. Other than the horn, it sounded everywhere and something would happen sooner or later. That unlucky Chief Ding didn't listen, and insisted on saving the money to become an excellent unit. First, the brakes were broken and now the steering wheel was gone. More than 100 meters in front of him was the territory of several internationally wanted criminals. Obviously he was going to crash into them. This broken car really broke down at the right time. He killed a person. Screw you to death. Wu Tong wasn't the only one who thought this way. The hundreds of police officers and special forces surrounding them were also cursing in their hearts. Stop the car. Some people shouted it out while others roared in their hearts, but it was useless. Nothing could stop Wu Tong's car from passing the cover of the SWAT team. The SWAT team could even clearly see Wu Tong's pained and desperate eyes as she sat in the driver's seat. Bang. Bang bang bang. At this moment the atmosphere was tense, and an intense exchange of fire could break out at any time. The robbers who were quietly hiding by the window of the factory immediately saw the audacious police car and fired without hesitation. The windshield of Wu Tong's police car was instantly shot into a spider web. She reacted quickly, and when she knew it was impossible, she curled up her body and lay down, barely escaping. The robbers' bullets swept across the driver's seat but didn't hit her. Therefore, under everyone's dumbfounded gaze, Wu Tong and her police car first knocked away the wooden boxes that the robbers had piled up in front of the factory, then slightly slowed down before crashing into a support pillar that was more than 50 centimeters in diameter in the middle of the factory, and finally came to a stop. Which branch's idiot is this? Damn it. Idiot. I'm going to kill him. Isn't he sending himself to be a hostage? The captain of the special forces in charge of temporary command was also on the verge of breaking down. Standing next to him was Chief Ding from the Wenxing branch. He already knew who the unlucky idiot was from the other two police officers in the other cars. Chief Ding's legs were about to turn into soaked fried dough sticks. Captain Gu, that's Wu Tong in that car, Department Chief Wu's daughter. Chief Ji's eyes widened as if he had heard the most terrifying thing in the world. This veteran soldier, who had at least 3 bullet holes in his body, couldn't hold it in anymore. He took a deep breath and finally said, Motherf asterisk cur. The word Motherf asterisk cur probably accurately summed up the feelings of all the police officers here at this time. As for the international felons who were guarding the perimeter, they were the complete opposite of the police officers outside. Thank God. They really thought they were dead. Based on the style of Huaxia, the two sides were in a deadlock, and the real heavy firepower of the other side must have already been mobilized. They originally thought that they and the others would definitely die under the rocket launched by the helicopter. They didn't expect God to bless them and send them such a big gift. The guardian god of Samaria must have heard my prayers. One of them, who looked like a Middle Eastern man, was about to kneel down and thank God. 3 black muzzles were pointed at Wu Tong's police car. A Chinese man got slightly closer and said loudly, "If the person inside is still alive, squeak. Otherwise I'll count to 3 and then I'll throw a grenade through your car window." 3. Wu Tong looked at her rather shabby gun awkwardly and decisively hid behind the car door. Squeak. The atmosphere was a little tense. She was afraid that the other side would open fire at the slightest disagreement. If that happened, she would really be dead. It was better to act cute first and see if they could mediate. Sure enough, the Chinese man grinned. A female comrade? Not bad, not bad. Raise your hands and crawl out of the car door yourself. Don't try to open the door or I'll shoot you into a sieve. Wu Tong did as she was told. When she stuck her head out and saw the 3 black muzzles, she completely lost all thoughts of struggling. She just thought, I'm really going to die because of Chief Ding's broken car this time. Even if I directly hit the factory wall, it'd be good. First, the brakes broke, then the steering wheel fell off, and then it accurately plunged into the factory door like an automatic grenade. Even if I hit the factory wall, it'd be good. Why am I so unlucky? I'm probably going to be the unluckiest police officer in history, right? If I die like this today, will I still have a chance to be honored as a martyr? I'll be the shame of the 5 Beijing police force, right? Wu Tong would never have guessed that her encounter was not really a coincidence. Instead, the power of fate had taken control of her life at this critical moment. She, who was supposed to be safely outside the second warning line, had plunged headfirst into a den of thieves. At this time, Qin Guang was making his last struggle in the distant woods. Because of the sudden change caused by Wu Tong, the police officers who were originally patrolling outside the second warning line gradually gathered inside. Looking at the expressions of the leaders in front, they knew that something big had happened. Of course, it was a big deal. The only daughter of the head of the public security system of Dechuan province was kidnapped by vicious criminals. More importantly, the head was now far less than 50 years old. It was self-evident what it meant. Chapter 300. The situation was already very serious, and now that the descendant of such a big shot was involved, the police officers on the scene were on the verge of breaking down. If Wu Tong died here, it would be useless even if the criminals inside died 10,000 times. Even if all the criminals hiding in the factory were killed and this serious incident that was close to a terrorist attack was perfectly resolved, the fate that awaited the people in charge here today would probably not be good. There were many stories about Wu Shan that were almost legendary and bloody, but everyone knew that Wu Tong was his only family. If he lost Wu Tong as well, who knew how crazy this man who had the potential to step into the Central Command would become? Captain Gu and Chief Ding, the two insiders, were well aware of this. The others were only slightly panicking, but the two of them only felt great fear in their hearts. The two of them turned their heads to look at the abandoned factory in the distance. For a moment, they felt as if the air had become a heavy burden that pressed down on their shoulders. It was so heavy that they could not breathe. Listen up, people outside. We want a helicopter. It's filled with oil. I'll give you 15 minutes or you'll lose this female comrade forever. Wu Tong was pushed to the window. The other party did not torture her, but her hands were firmly bound. However, when the Chinese criminal shouted, he pointed a gun at her temple, not giving her any chance to escape. She could either die or stand here obediently as the most eye-catching hostage. The purpose of the other party pushing Wu Tong out was to tell the people outside that their hostage was still alive and not to try to fight to the death. Then, before Chief Ding and Captain Gu could answer, Wu Tong was pulled back again and thrown into a corner, unable to move. Not only were her hands tied, but her feet were also tightly bound. She could only take half a step when she walked. It was obvious that this group of well-trained criminals had no intention of negotiating with the police. This was someone else's territory. Other than the hostage, everything else was out of control. Once they showed any signs of being willing to negotiate, it would be easy to fall into the other party's trap. As for whether the other party was willing to accept her conditions, they would just have to observe for another 2 minutes. The Middle Eastern man stood not far in front of Wu Tong, looking at her with Wu Tong's gun in his hand. He looked Wu Tong up and down with great interest. From the moment they captured her, she had been very cooperative. He thought to himself that perhaps he should try to take it a step further. She would not resist anyway, right? Mr. Sergio, are all Chinese women this beautiful? Even a random policewoman is so charming. Although the Middle Easterners were impulsive, they were experienced. They knew that any move they made at this time had to be approved by the temporary leader among them. The Chinese man known as Sergio was the one who had grabbed Wu Tong earlier. He put on a straight face and said, "Zayed, you're wrong. There might not even be one woman as beautiful as her in 100,000 people. But I advise you not to touch her. You don't understand Chinese women. She was a police officer and knew how to deal with us when she was a hostage, so she was very cooperative. But if you plan to treat her like the women in your hometown, I bet $1 million that there's a 90% chance that she'll fight you to the death." Zayed was in disbelief and expressed his incomprehension. Could it be that to Chinese women, that kind of thing is more important than their lives? She would also be afraid of death, right? Sergio glared at him. Even if there's only a 50% chance, you can't act rashly. Right now, she's our only hope of survival. Put away your thoughts and leave this place alive. You can still sleep with hundreds or even thousands of women. Okay, this is your territory. I'll listen to you. Zayed shrugged indifferently. Although he didn't think much of it, he changed his mind. Although Wu Tong wasn't very proficient in English, she could roughly understand 70% of the conversation between the two men. She still didn't move, but the expression in her eyes became even colder. Zayed suddenly nodded and said to himself, "Sergio is right. You'll fight me to the death." Wu Tong was shocked. She didn't expect him to be so observant. This middle-aged man with an unshaven beard was not stupid at all. Outside, Bureau Chief Ding and Captain Gu had immediately reported Wu Tong's kidnapping to Wu Shan. The instructions they received were very simple. Do your best to stabilize the criminal's emotions and wait for him to arrive. In addition, Wu Shan was already on his way here and would arrive in about 20 minutes. Although Captain Gu, Bureau Chief Ding, and even the director of Shuangyue County who had just arrived felt that it would be useless for Wu Shan to arrive, he was still the head of the department. His daughter was being held hostage, so his orders were unquestionable. However, the other party only gave him 15 minutes, so they needed to negotiate. The negotiation only lasted for 30 seconds before it broke down. The negotiator had just stated that due to the urgency of the situation, the helicopter would need at least half an hour to arrive when the loudspeaker in his hand was shot through the window. From the moment the other party extended the muzzle and took aim to accurately shoot the loudspeaker, it took less than 3 seconds. His loudspeaker had only poked out a small part of it from the bunker. The terrifying sniper was so strong that it made people despair. The special police sniper lying in ambush in the distance didn't even have time to turn his gun around. From the beginning to the end, the military literacy displayed by the other party clearly told everyone that it was impossible to rescue the hostage. Have you really decided? Even if you really die, you still want to go? Liuli was still making one last effort to dissuade Qin Guang. However, at this moment, Qin Guang's footsteps had finally become firm. He gently pushed aside the bushes and moved forward bit by bit like a cat. Hearing Liuli's words, Qin Guang didn't stop moving and replied, "Yes, I've decided. I want to go, I must go. I know my current behavior is very stupid. Before today, I didn't expect myself to be so great, but now, I really want to be great once in a while." Aren't you afraid of death? If I die, so be it. There are always some things that people have to do in their lives. If it wasn't because of me with my current ability, I wouldn't do something that I'm not confident in. But now I can't just stand by and do nothing. This is the karma that I created, my punishment realm, so of course only I can destroy it with my own hands. Even you wouldn't want your savior to be someone who's afraid of death, right? After a pause, Qin Guang continued, I don't know what's waiting for me in front of me. I don't even know what kind of fate I'll have to face after getting involved with you in the heavenly Holy Grail. But you told me from the beginning that if I fail the test of the real realm in the cup, I'll die. If I don't have the courage to be fearless, how can I face the true dangers that might appear in the 3,000 worlds? It can't be that every test world is as gentle as the heavenly Holy Grail, right? Even in the Sea of Time, I've already died 95 times. Although I managed to escape danger in the end, I'm only 5 times away from dying, right? Since I've already let the heavenly Holy Grail recognize me as its master and changed my fate, I'm no longer an ordinary person. If I don't have the courage to be decisive and always think that nothing will go wrong, how can I accompany you to the end of the 3,000 worlds? Liuli was silent for a while. All right, I'll help you. Qin Guang fiercely clenched the dagger in his hand. Hiding in the forest, he looked at the factory in the distance and grinned. I've been waiting for you to say this for a long time. Even if I know that I'm going to die, as long as you can help me, I'll be able to grasp a slim chance of survival. This is the fate that I, Qin Guang, have chosen. Without regrets, there's no turning back. Imperceptibly, a thick smell of blood gradually gushed out from his body, but then suddenly disappeared. Qin Guang recalled the 20 years he spent in the Sea of Time. It was as if he once again felt the enemy's blood splashing on his face. That scalding feeling made his blood gradually warm up. The opponent is a well-trained bandit, but I'm also the all-powerful second officer of the Sea of Time. His blood, which had gradually cooled down in real life, began to burn again. Chapter 301. Liuli's help wasn't limited to words alone. About a minute later, when Qin Guang was about to leave the cover of the bushes and expose himself to the eyes of the patrolling police officers, Liuli said, There's a small river 50 meters to the right from here. Follow the river for about 200 meters, and there's a circular water pipe that's half the height of a person hidden behind the water plants. You can go in directly from there. Liuli's voice sounded extremely tired. I'm so tired. Just now, this empress used her divine power to scan this entire area. The little stock that I saved up from your statue of Ao Ta with great difficulty has been used up again. You're such a useless prodigal. Now, clear your mind and wait for me to enlighten you. Hurry up and don't dawdle. What prodigal? You're the prodigal woman. Before Qin Guang could say anything, he could only complain in his heart. Then he felt as if someone had forcefully stuffed something into his brain. After pondering for a while, he was so shocked that his mouth opened wide. What appeared in his mind was a 3D three-dimensional image of the abandoned steel mill in front of him. From the structure of the house to the distribution of the underground drainage pipes, everything was there. It was very similar to the structural modeling commonly used in architecture. After pondering for a while, his mind felt as if he was sitting in front of a computer and looking at a 3D model. This model even had the function of dragging and automatically zooming in and out. What the heck is this 3D printing scanner? It's really too useful. Alright, that's all I can do to help you. I can't take it anymore. I'm leaving first. I hope you're still alive when I wake up. After Lioli finished speaking, she completely disappeared without a trace. Qin Guang squeezed the heavenly holy grail in his sports bag. He thought to himself that she had indeed helped a lot. Although he only had a dagger at the moment, he could control the situation of the house in front of him just like when he was running corpses in CS in the past. Especially the complicated underground drainage pipe structure, it was his only breakthrough point. Unlike other production enterprises, the wastewater of the steel mill was mainly cooling water. It had a lot of water but it had low pollution. Therefore, in the early days the steel mills almost didn't consider the separation of rainwater and sewage. The rainwater ditch and the wastewater ditch were all put together after coming out from each factory. The huge pipe that Luli mentioned was the drainage outlet of the entire rolling mill. Behind this outlet was the complicated underground pipe network structure of the entire rolling mill. At this time, it was impossible for Qin Guang to swagger over to the factory in front of the police. People would only think that he was crazy. Therefore, sneaking into the drainage pipe without anyone noticing was his only choice. He crouched down and crawled in the circular drainage pipe. He seemed to be in an awkward situation. However, Qin Guang himself was rejoicing. He thanked the heavens that this broken factory had been out of production for many years. If there was water in this unlucky pipe, that would be awesome. Just as he was thinking about this, he pressed his claws on something sticky. This was definitely not dog poop. Definitely not dog poop. Of course not. Why the F***ck was there a pile of sh**t here? Is this a sign from the heavens that I'm going to be lucky today? What was worse was that Qin Guang didn't know what the situation outside was like. He didn't know how much time he had left, so he could only desperately crawl forward. Thanks to the powerful LED flash of the Popcorn 6P, it was really useful at this time. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how many times he would hit his head in this dark drainage pipe. That pile of sh**t just now? That was an auspicious sign from the gods, okay? However, Qin Guang didn't dare to fully release the light from the flash. Instead, he pressed a finger on the light bead, letting only some light pass through his finger. Right now, his only chance of winning was to catch the other party off guard and think of a way to save them in a flash. Once he alerted the enemy in advance, it meant that he would really have to rely on this broken dagger to fight against several armed bandits head-on. The key was that he couldn't save Wu Tong in that way. He would only put himself in danger for no reason. Thinking about the situation, I can probably last for 1 second. Once I make a move, I must hit the target in one shot. There won't be a second chance. On the other hand, there were 8 minutes left before the 15-minute limit given by Sergio. The military's assault helicopter was approaching quickly. They had delayed for a few minutes to dismantle the weapons and equipment on it. They didn't expect that the assault helicopter, which was supposed to deal a fatal blow to the bandits, would become a negotiation tool. Several leaders explained the situation to the troops behind Wu Shan's back. Although the other side was furious, they didn't hesitate to agree to the proposal of temporarily saving Wu Tong's life even if they had to give up an assault helicopter and let the international criminals go free. The person in charge of the military knew Wu Shan better and could roughly guess his plan. This pillar of the nation probably wanted to use himself as a hostage in exchange for Wu Tong. Many years ago, because of his stubbornness and persistence, he lost his wife and son. Now he was as stubborn as ever, but he was definitely not willing to lose his only family, his daughter. Therefore, even if it was just a simple order from him to stall for 20 minutes, it wasn't hard to guess his true intentions. Currently, Wu Tong was the one being held hostage, so the situation wasn't irreparable. To this country, Wu Tong wasn't indispensable. However, if it was Wu Shan, the impact of this would be like an earthquake and it would be immeasurable. Perhaps Wu Shan wasn't indispensable to the entire country, but to the interest groups that had invested heavily in him for so many years, Wu Shan's life couldn't be lost. Therefore they would rather give up the helicopter and let Wu Tong go. Even though they knew that this wouldn't save Wu Tong from danger because the other party wouldn't let go of the hostage easily. Instead, it would cause Wu Tong to be taken away for good. However, they still did it without hesitation. Captain Go, Bureau Chief Ding, and the others wanted to use the helicopter to temporarily save Wu Tong's life. The people from the military agreed so readily, but their thoughts were deeper. Wu Tong's life was not important, and they only needed to save Wu Shan's life. Even though they knew Wu Shan would fly into a rage after this, someone in his position would understand the importance of this sooner or later. Of course, they had a good reason. The other party had given them a time difference of only 15 minutes. If they didn't give up the helicopter with both hands, their daughter would die before they arrived. Then they could explain it to Wu Shan, who would fly into a rage after this. Unknowingly, Wu Tong's life was given up. Squatting on the ground, Wu Tong peeked at the bandits in the factory from time to time. Looking at the two light spots flying in from afar, she had mixed feelings. She knew the helicopter was coming. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.